had the ever so slightest sniffle over the weekend. The entire time I'm like, oh my God, do I have COVID? But then I'm like, I'm 45 years old. I've had the same sniffle and stuffiness every single winter of my life. Like every single one. Why is this year like paranoia?
Well, because, there's a global pandemic.
Well, yeah, you know where I'm at.
Yeah. Hey, first off, we're alive. Second, how do you spell this name?
O''N''E''A''L.
No, the first name.
Katie. Catherine. Catherine.
It's Catherine?
Yeah, my bad. She goes by she goes by Katie, but formally it's Dr. Catherine O'Neill.
But it's with an O?
O'Neill.
No, Catherine.
Catherine.
E?
Yeah. I think the camera's already frozen.
Oh, wow, it is.
Yeah, that didn't take long. We've already got traffic problems.
It says it's updated.
Yeah, no.
Oh.
Good. Villa Del Rey and Broadmoor going virtual?
Mornings with Ryan Haldane. Who are you? Ryan! I'm really quite something. Mornings are for coffee and contemplation. News and newsmakers. Coffee and contemplation. Traffic and weather.
I've been sitting here for 2.5 hours and I still don't know why.
Good morning. Great day in the morning. Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon. Start your day with Baton Rouge's hub for information and opinion. Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man. Here is Ryan Haldane.
606 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Good morning, everybody. Brian here with you. Jake producing. We call it Mornings with Brian Haldane. We are off and running to get your week started. Looking forward to every single segment of this show today. Busy show today. We're going to be all over the place. Saints beat the Dirty Birds but don't make the playoffs. Whatever. Beat Atlanta. That's all I'm worried about. Honestly, with this team, it's probably for the best that they're not moving forward. Although yesterday, offense looked way better than it has in a few weeks. Everything is Omicron. Everything is the Omicron variant. We're going to talk about COVID a good bit this morning. Richard Condon is going to be by at 6:35. I don't know. If you had asked me on Friday what Condon would be talking about, I would have guessed. Bear in mind, just a guess. But what South Carolina's women's basketball coach had to say after the LSU game and just how it oozed with race baiting. But after yesterday, who the hell knows? I don't know. But we have him in every Monday to light a few fires to get your week kick-started. And that's what he's doing this week. At 6:35, 6:52, Dr. Mark Sherwood is a healthy living expert. We're going to talk about the new CDC guidelines when it comes to COVID. Got to sit out for 5 days unless you get called into work. Huh? Where are we at with the CDC guidelines? We're a full week into. We've had a full week to digest. In fact, if we were quarantined, we'd already be out of it by now with the new CDC guidelines. Are you more confused now than ever? Has the CDC done so much to turn the corner so many times that they've gone in a circle? And are they losing credibility, if not already lost credibility with the public? We're going to talk with Dr. Mark Sherwood at 6:52. Keeping it with COVID-19 topics, Dr. Catherine O'Neill, Dr. Katie O'Neill with Our Lady of the Lake, going to join us for our Medical Monday segment at 7:15. We talk business with Stephen Wagonsback at 7:35. In the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to lighten up a good bit because it's a heavy first 2 hours. Comedian Dan Ahdoot is the host of a new show on the Food Network. They're actually a couple of episodes in. It's called Raid the Fridge. And it's a lot more real than what you've seen before with these food competitions on the Food Network. It has a lot more reality base to it than Chopped. And also, not only that, but he's funny. And he brings the funny. We'll talk with Dan Ahdoot at 8:15, and then we'll round things out guest list-wise at 8:40. AFR. After further views, Matt Moscona is going to join us. The Saints season is over with. The Natty is coming up tonight. We're going to break down both of those things. But batting leadoff this morning, I'm telling you right now, we're going to run long. Batting leadoff this morning, 4 shootings in Baton Rouge yesterday, and I happen to be at one of them. Well, I happen to be a block away from one of them. Let's be very, very clear about that. It's a block away. The shooting on Government Street at Apartment Court. I believe the news reported it was Government Street at South Carrollton. Apartment Court is the next side street west, so it was in between Carrollton and Apartment Court. I was at church. Our Lady of Mercy is the next block west of there. Heard the sirens just before church bells let us know it was time to get inside, that Mass was starting. Found out what happened once I checked my phone after Mass was over with. I tend to, put the phone away, like very intentionally, or else I'll continue to check on it. Don't need to be looking at fantasy football while 10:30 Mass is going on. So after Mass is over, I found out 2 people were sent out. After Mass was over, I found that there was a shooting. Went over to the scene just to see what I could learn. Not much, as it turns out. Found out that 2 people were sent to the hospital. Their injuries were not life-threatening. One bystander had a lot to say, but nothing to substantiate any of it. But I'm standing out there looking at a black car with just full-on Sonny Corleone treatment. I mean, all kinds of bullet holes up and down the side. 1 block away for where my children are outside of their church on a Sunday morning. Otherwise, felt like a warm, muggy Sunday morning. And that shooting wasn't the only shooting, but here's my takeaway. So, yeah, you had that shooting. Around the same time, I believe you pronounce this Roulette, R-E-U-L-E-T. I believe you pronounce that Roulette. A shooting over on Roulette. And then later on in the afternoon, you had a shooting on Lobdell and a shooting on South Choctaw. Statistically, the likelihood of that happening again in the same area is low. Statistically, walking outside of church to go look at a crime scene is low. Statistically, the shootings in Baton Rouge boil down to one of a few motives, and random shootings aren't nearly as prevalent as beef over drugs. But you could throw out statistics when it comes to the perception of the city. The perception of the city is nowhere near where the analytics are. This was a very, very violent weekend in Baton Rouge. And oh, by the way, there was an officer-involved shooting Saturday night. We're going to have to dive into all of it later. I'm going to pick this take up where I'm leaving it off after sports. Busy weekend in sports. We'll talk about it coming up in just a little bit. I'll tell you what, we are due up for a break. Rather than running super duper long, let's go ahead and take a break right here. When we come back, the Saints season is over. LSU basketball seems to be firing on all cylinders. We're talking about both of them. We're talking about both of them next right here on Talk 107.3 FM. We're going to take that break after I tell you about the folks over at Complete Collision Center. 2 locations. They're up on Plank Road in Zachary. They are in Baton Rouge on Perkins, just east of Bluebonnet. So I tell you all the time about the iCar Gold Class certification when it comes to Complete Collision. What does that mean? Well, the short answer is go to CompleteCollision.com to learn more. But let me dive into it. It means that Complete Collision Center has committed to training, committed to learning the latest techniques and technologies. They're among the top 15% of collision repair businesses nationwide that hold this designation. They meet the industry's highest standard for training. They're trained up on the latest repair techniques. They know what can be repaired, what needs to be replaced, and how to spot hidden damage. And if you've ever been in an accident, you know how important it is, not just to fix what's pretty, not just to fix what's on the outside, not just to have the aesthetic ready for you when you're back on the road, but to make sure you and your family are safe. Give them a call at 768-98, 768-9898, or check them out online, CompleteCollision.com. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Check out CompleteCollision.com.
You know what I love about this time of year? The 3 F's. Fall, football, and fishing. And so why don't you take your fishing game to the next level with our friends at Front to Back Boat Service. Front to Back Boat Service has been family owned and operated for nearly 30 years. And the Sherman family is NMEA is the National Marine Electronics Association, meaning at Front to Back, they're committed to improving the safety and technology of marine electronics.
Good morning, Christy. I have no idea if she's watching or not, but good morning.
They are always pushing the technological limits while keeping you safe. And look, when you're talking about the fall and the winter, you're talking about the perfect time to do any yearly maintenance that you need done. Finally, finding the parts you've always dreamed about. And at Front to Back Boat Service, they do it all. So find them on Facebook, Front to Back Boat Service, or just go in. See them at 221 North Airway Drive. Front to Back Boat Service. They do it all.
You all know Patrick Coogan, whose nail with Tiger Air. What started in college football as a safety component for athletes has now...
Morning, Eric. Morning, Clinton.
Tell me about Tiger Air.
You're exactly right, Gordy. What started in extreme elements and helping athletes be cooler on the
What does full auto and not fatal crazy mean?
that work in plants, that work in construction can use that technology to increase their safety and performance as well.
For more about the hard hat version, contact Patrick Coogan of Tiger Air at patrick@airflownow.com, or you can call and text him 225-892-0032 for a demonstration and get some air. Since the early 1800s, the Selassie family has played a significant role in the retail industry in Louisiana. Stuart Selassie has achieved the Certified Diamond Graduate designation from the prestigious Gemological Institute of America. What that means to you, whether it's appraisals, design, build, repair, or diamond sales, you have an expert you can count on. At Selassie's, you make all the right choices. Selassie
Oh, okay. I got you.
part of the Ditto Springs and
The shooting was full auto. Yeah. Which means zero regard for, I don't know, a family walking on the sidewalk on their way to church. Zero regard for passersby, zero regard for people that are in the homes behind their target. That's the stuff that scares me. I'm going to get back into it at 6:25. We're going to do 19 and 21st, and then back to 17 and 18. Okay.
See an accident? Report it at WBRC Traffic on Twitter. This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $100 instant savings with the purchase of 4 eligible Bridgestone or Firestone tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
Bringing you the news you can use with Brian Kilmeade and common sense for your dollars and cents with Dave Ramsey. Talk 107.3, the new flavor of talk.
Six 17, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Oh, so close for the Saints. First of all, what was wrong, Rams? What the heck, man? I mean, L.A. had the game in hand yesterday, and then just San Francisco decided to turn on the juice and come back from what they were down 17-0, ended up winning the game. Anyway, 49ers make the playoffs. Saints do not. The Saints beat Atlanta 30-20. Then they watched as L.A. and San Francisco went into overtime to get it done. Coach Sean Payton said they were pulling for the Rams hard in this one.
Any and all Saints fans watching it would have felt the same way in our locker room. You know, you're watching, you're leaning on every play, and, you know, no different than a fan would be.
Saints finished the season with a 9-8 record. Regular season started with the team relocated in the Dallas area because of Hurricane Ida. 58 different starters over the course of the year this year, which is a lot. That's a huge number. As due to COVID, due to different injuries. I mean, you lost your quarterback. You had 2 key offensive linemen out for the home stretch. Remember that stretch where they lost 5 in a row? Yeah, you were missing linemen there too. 4 different quarterbacks played over the course of the season, and for the second time this year, Trevor Siemian had to replace Taysom Hill.
And as bad as things were at times, or as weird as they felt, like I said, the leadership in the locker room and with the coaching staff kept us on the straight and narrow when it could have got real ugly, I think. So I think, again, it stinks right now to miss out and just miss the way we did, but to get to nine wins with, you know, all things considered is, I think, something we're going to look back on in maybe a few months or however long and be pretty proud of.
So who's left, who remains, who's in the playoffs? Well, you'll have your top seeds on each side with a bye. Playing out this coming weekend. Saturday, you're going to have the Raiders at the Bengals, the Patriots at the Bills. Sunday, you'll have the Eagles at the Bucks, the 49ers at the Cowboys, and Sunday night we'll round out with the Steelers and Chiefs. Over to college basketball. I'm looking up the time. I don't know if we have enough time to cover it. LSU went on the road to start SEC play. They dropped the SEC opener to Auburn. After that, they follow up playing 2 more ranked teams. I tell you what, let's push pause right here. To be fair to this story, we'll dive back into it. That gives us 3 different topics we got to cover in 5 minutes because we got the Fox Business Report, we got traffic, we're going to cover LSU basketball, back to the shootings over the weekend, and more. Right back at it here on Talk 107.3 FM. There it is again. Just bail out of it. Tell you what, good. Something's wrong with the satellite again. We'll have to have that looked at after the show. It did this to us on Friday as well. Good. We got room to cover LSU right here. All right. So LSU falls in their SEC opener to Auburn, at Auburn. Really tough place to play. After that, they bounced right back, though. That was the big question. Team was rolling along, undefeated going into conference play. The big question would become, well, how do they bounce back from a loss? Or do they bounce back once you see, things get rattled? Well, they bounced back just fine. Beat Kentucky, beat Tennessee last week. Tigers knocked out the Volunteers in front of a sold-out crowd Saturday. A sold-out crowd Saturday. 79-67, your final score. Forward Darius Days says losing to Auburn actually turned into a good thing.
Once we lost, we shook back and, did everything we were supposed to do. We was in the gym extra. And we always in the gym, but, a little bit more extra. Just taking things a little bit more serious. So, we really needed that loss. But, these 2, back-to-back games and back-to-back wins is, very big for, our team. And we're going to just keep growing.
Want to reemphasize, sold-out crowd Saturday. Eric says on the YouTube stream, haven't seen the PMAC looking like that in a long time. Feels good, doesn't it? LSU's at Florida on Wednesday. They'll host Arkansas this coming Saturday. Coach Will Wade says this team needs to keep on getting better.
We've won 2 quad 1 games this week. We're a good team. I mean, we knew that, but we've got to keep getting better. If you stay the same in this league, you're going to get passed by. And so we've got to keep getting better. I thought we got better from Auburn to Kentucky. I thought we got better from Kentucky to here. We had 2 unbelievable days of practice. 2 best days of practice we've had all year long leading up to this game. Our guys were locked in.
Yes, the locked-in part is an important part, but my long-term worry for this team is shooting percentage. Look good over the weekend, but that's got to be sustainable. All right, quick break. When we come back, we're going to dive back into the violent weekend that was in Baton Rouge. Also going to talk a little bit about COVID as well. That's coming up next on Talk 107.3.
Assistant, does Demco really send students to Washington, D.C.? Here's what I found on that. High school juniors can enter the 2022 Demco Essay Contest, and winners will receive an all-expenses-paid trip of a lifetime to Washington, D.C. Hope I'm not too late. When's the deadline? Entries are due by January 21st. So, how can I get more information? For rules and info, visit demco.org. Demco, your Touchstone Energy Cooperative.
Stocks can make you money, but they can just as easily lose you money. Fixed indexed annuity could be the asset class you're looking for. One that
Yes. Yes, there's one cut from last week.
giving you a complimentary report to download. It's called Annuities as an Asset. Go to gregoryrich.com/asset.
Cantor cut 4.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
I struggled with symptoms like frequent gas and stomach pain for years.
I was bloated all the time with daily diarrhea.
At first, I thought it was what I was eating.
Yeah.
I kept thinking it was stomach issues.
So I did my research and talked to my doctor, and we finally uncovered the truth.
Okay.
It was actually EPI. Exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI, is a condition where your pancreas
I'm not 100% sure we're going to get to it.
It
There's
can lead to symptoms like diarrhea,
decent chance that this just runs the whole thing.
unexplained weight loss, and oily stools.
and EPI symptoms can be confused with those of other common digestive conditions like irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's, and celiac disease.
So getting to the right diagnosis meant being more open with my doctor about the severity of my symptoms and how often they were happening.
But there's good news. EPI is manageable, so don't wait any longer. Use the symptom checker at identifyepi.com and schedule a visit or call with your doctor to ask, could I have EPI?
Sponsored by AbbVie.
Now, your WBRZ traffic update from Ashley Fouché.
Crash with injury in Port Hudson, Plains Road and Sandlands Road. So way up there, if that's where you live, look out for an accident here involving an injury. South of our area, we have a prop going on in Ascension Parish. This is an accident past the Sorrento 22 entrance ramp. So if you're going toward Highway 44, Gonzales, those areas, look out for some major slowdowns that are actually starting to build with the right lane being blocked in the area. Let's send you outside. I can show you what's going on out there. Take a live look here. You can see the right lane is blocked and stop traffic approaching this incident.
See an accident? Report it at WBRZ Traffic on Twitter.
This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $100 instant savings on the purchase of 4 eligible Bridgestone or Firestone tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
625, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Richard Condon coming your way 10 minutes from right now. Oh, man. Weather's going to be cold again today, huh? Looking like we're going to top out at about 55, 56 degrees. And then overnight tonight it's supposed to get super cold again, like almost close to freezing. We're at 47 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge to start off your day. Yeah, your high is only 56. Overnight low tonight down to 35. I swear, my allergies are all over the place with the weather, the way this has been. If I sound a little raspy this morning, that's why. So yesterday morning, 2 shootings within a couple minutes of each other. One on Government Street, about a block east of Our Lady of Mercy Catholic Church, in between South Carrollton and Apartment Court. Another one on Roulette, which is on Sherwood, just north of I-12. I thought it was Sherwood out south of I-12, but it's just north of I-12, like in between that Taco Bell and Popeyes. Then in the afternoon, you've got 2 more shootings, both of which resulting in homicides. One at around 2 p.m., 2180 Lobdell. One at around 4:20 p.m., 7500 block of South Choctaw Drive. Excuse me. 4 shootings on Sunday. It is not the norm to walk outside of church to a crime scene. And when Baton Rougeans say they don't feel safe, this dives into it. We're going to talk. I believe we have the chief on tomorrow. We're going to talk about it. But, I mean, I've asked the chief about this before, and he has a lot of tools that he can use, but you're not going to have a cop on every street corner or in every living room or driveway. While we had 4 shootings in Baton Rouge yesterday, Baton Rouge Fire Department responded to, or I have press releases on, let's see, a fire at a daycare. Cause undetermined and under investigation. Fire in an apartment complex. Unattended candle was the cause there. And a fire in a home on Ranchwood Drive. But like when you see that news, your perception isn't about your safety. You don't look to point the blame at the people who are there to clean it up. But it's natural when it comes to feeling safe to think that way. When I've asked Chief Paul about this in the past, he's given me a data-based answer, which I respect because I respect data. When you have data, you have something empirical to lean on. You have something you can roll with. You have, for lack of a better term, facts. And how does Ben Shapiro put it? Facts don't care about your feelings. But where we're at with this, what happens when that data starts to get blurry? When you can't narrow things down to a few street blocks anymore? What happens when the bullets start flying and there's more than a few people around? Like, I don't know, outside of a church. What happens when there's a total disregard for, say, families that are out and about? The bullet holes that were in that car that I saw yesterday they were a lot more than just taking a shot at somebody you've got beef with. I mean, we saw last week, okay, so nobody died in the shooting on Government Street, and I believe the one on Roulette left somebody with life-threatening injuries, but I don't believe they died either. But we saw last week a 74-year-old man couldn't even rely on the protection of being inside his own home. What happens when those stories start to take on a greater trend than just people who are beefing with each other? I don't know how we find solace in the overall numbers that way, when the exceptions start to overwhelm the rule. And I also, when it comes to solutions, I'm at a loss as well. Like we said, you can't have a police officer in every single home. Is it time to start pointing the fingers elsewhere? The chief has said repeatedly, his men are tired of arresting the same people over and over and over again. Well, wait a minute. Who's responsible for putting them back out on the street again? I mean, if we have to point a finger somewhere, where do we point it? And how many times do we have to point that finger? BRPD said the shooting on Government Street and Roulette aren't related. Well, what about the 2 that happened in the afternoon? The one on Lobdell, one on South Choctaw. Just a few blocks from each other, both of which took a life. Are we going to find out those 2 were related? Do we want to know those 2 are related? Actually, personally, I'd kind of like them to be related. I know this is sad to say it, but if those 2 shootings are related, there's fewer problems to solve. The more widespread it is, the more random it is. If they're not, then we've got 4 problems that need solving, as opposed to 2 or 3. And honestly, that shouldn't change our perception at the end of the day, but perception is based on feelings and not on facts. Here's CBS. keep that soundbite up. I might revisit it at the end of the show. What? That Dr. Cantor soundbite? Yeah, keep it in Adobe. He's got the same raspy thing that I do. I took something last night to clear up my congestion, and then realized it was a daytime thing, and I had to go to bed, and I'm like, ugh. Morning, T-Bob. Eh.
This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $100 instant savings with the purchase of 4 eligible Bridgestone or Firestone tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
DraftKings Sportsbook is coming soon to Louisiana. It won't be long until you can bet on all your favorite sports from the comfort of your own home. To celebrate, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving customers $100 in free bets when you sign up before they go live. No deposit required. DraftKings is bringing their experience as a leader in daily fantasy sports to the sports betting world and have created one of America's top-rated sportsbook app, DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code LA Sports when you sign up. Those who sign up right now will get $100 in free bets to use once mobile sports betting hits Louisiana. That's code LA Sports to get $100 in free bets instantly. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-877-770-STOP. 7867. 21 and over. Louisiana only. Availability varies by parish. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for full terms and conditions.
Do what? Gotcha.
Easily list and sell? Or discover great finds. Buy and sell almost anything.
Morning, Rich.
Traveling, dude.
Not much. How are you this
I
morning?
don't know, man. Real lightheaded. I don't know what that's about. It's just weird.
It's the weather. I've had a little. Every year I get the same sniffle and like frog in my throat.
Yeah.
This year feels different
They
because.
discovered the best over-counter medication that's ever been invented.
Oh?
Oragel.
Oragel?
Oh, that is the best thing ever. I got an abscess tooth.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, man. Just put a little bit of that on the end of your finger. Beautiful. And I should have went to the casino on Saturday night.
Why?
Pulled up the Popeyes on Storing. First car in line. Speaker out in 4 minutes. Didn't have to pull up front waiting for the spicy breasts. How huge was that?
We got Popeyes last night.
Did you?
Yeah. All my kids like to eat
It's not
drumsticks.
large beans no more. It's not
What?
a large bean.
No. Yeah. Hey, I finally saw Scott Robb's billboard. I said we bought him a billboard for his 50th birthday, saying text him a happy birthday. I don't know if his wife or it was Luke or somebody.
Oh, really?
But yeah, the digital's all over town. I finally saw him on Goodwood.
I didn't know anything about him.
Yeah.
When he turned 50?
Last week.
I didn't know.
637 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Oh, one segment of the week. I don't prep the show for one segment of the week. I leave it wide open to let Richard Condon just run. I have no idea where he's going every single Monday morning.
First off, let me say I'm disappointed about what happened or did not happen. How the hell you can't maintain a 17-point lead? Talking about the Ram.
Bro,
But what
how?
I'm doing tonight, it gives me a degree of satisfaction. I'm pulling for Alabama because the last damn thing I want is Stafford and his family to get a little joy that his alma mater wins their first national title since 1980. That's why I'm pulling for Alabama. Matthew Stafford played at Georgia. That's my only way of bringing a little misery into his life.
It feels like a millennium ago that Stafford was at Georgia. How long ago was that? Could have been that long.
2006 to 2008.
Yeah, thereabouts. Goodness.
Look,
Feels
man,
like
here's
forever.
what I want to do. I shared this with you last week, but especially
Oh,
after
good.
4 different shootings with 2 people dying yesterday.
Mhm.
God bless their families. Look, you and I talked about this last week, and I thought about it even over the weekend because you know what? A week ago, Tuesday, right? Tomorrow's when Mardi Gras officially got underway.
Yes.
So, and you already know this, but your audience doesn't. So, you know, obviously you can get a king cake anywhere in the city of Baton Rouge, surrounding area, the 107.3 listening area. However, you know, Baton Rouge does not have a Haydell's Bakery. They don't have a Rendazzo's. They don't have a Bywater Bakery. New Orleans king cakes are always going to be thought of as the best king cakes out there.
Yes.
Fair or unfair? Calandro's, great king cake. Other places, great king cakes.
Matherns.
So with Baton Rouge, Matherns, absolutely. So what Baton Rouge needs to do is differentiate their king cakes from what you get in New Orleans. You follow me? Baton Rouge needs to begin their own tradition when it comes to king cakes, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
We all know when you get a New Orleans king cake, you get the little baby inside, right?
Right.
And first off, for all the losers out there, if you got that first baby 10 years ago, people you work with, your neighbors and your friends are still waiting for you to buy a king cake. So what I thought we'd do, instead of putting plastic little babies in the king cakes that people buy in Baton Rouge,
Yeah.
we need to replace that with a couple of different items. No babies in the king cakes that are purchased in the Baton Rouge area.
What would you get instead?
Right. Well, you got 1 of 4 options, so you really never know in what you're getting. You don't have the options you would do like when we were a kid getting a box of Cracker Jacks, you know?
Mhm.
Always get the little black spider ring and a
I always get the
magnifying
temporary
glass or something
tattoos.
like that. How about this?
Yeah.
First thing you could get is maybe a little baby toy gun. Just a little baby toy gun.
Mhm.
If you don't get that, maybe you can get a little get out of jail free card. That would be another thing they could put in the Baton Rouge king cakes. How about a condom? Put a condom. Put condoms in Baton Rouge king cakes.
Okay.
How about this? How about this? This is an aerial shot of afternoon traffic heading east or west.
I like it.
In Baton Rouge.
I like all these
See,
things.
that way you got 1 of 4 different king cakes you could get, and that
Mhm.
would sell a lot more king cakes because people would say, hey, seems like the last 3 I bought, I got this, I got that, I still gotten the condom yet, or the aerial shot of I-10.
Right, so you have incentive to buy
Right,
more. And so
right.
you collect the
Exactly
whole
right.
set.
Exactly right.
I tell you what,
that's what I think. We got to differentiate.
Can I make one adjustment, though?
Sure, yeah, whatever you want.
We
to
have
do.
enough get-out-of-jail-free
It's just a
cards.
concept. What's that?
We have enough get-out-of-jail-free cards. I mean, it's the same people doing the same crimes over
like
and over
the mayor
again.
says, she's got a lot of vision, but she's really doubling down this year. because the vision she had last year is the same vision she has this year, but she really means business this year.
She does.
Last year she was just putting it on a tee, but she's going to swing away. She's going to drive the ball this year, buddy.
I can see it.
All right, now look. We talked about this Dawn Staley deal, and
I
wanna
was
tell
hoping you would get to this.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. You were very critical of me via Twitter. I didn't respond because I was waiting to come in here with you this morning.
When was I critical
Well,
of you?
not really on Twitter, but you texted me.
Yeah.
Saying, I'm sorry. I knew it started with a T. You texted me.
I did.
And said, I'm going to get on you because, for the first time, I'm thinking I can send out a professional email. If management finds out, I can't get in trouble with this email because I put it, I thought, professionally.
You did.
And of all the people who should be picking up my spirits and patting me on the back for finally showing a little professionalism, you go the opposite way.
I do.
You were critical of me.
I was. So you sent a letter to South Carolina's athletic director.
Let's be accurate. Email,
excuse me. It's one and the same at this point. What do you do? Put it in the actual postal service?
I said I was being professional here.
Go for it.
Now,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, you want to go down that unprofessional street that I've lived on for 35 years.
Read the letter, please.
All right, I will. This goes out to A.D. Ray Tanner. And for people who don't know, Dawn Staley said if Nikki Fargas would have got the same support from the LSU fan base. All right. So, first off, Nikki Fargas won 9 games her 10th season.
Right.
Okay? How about Kim Mulkey winning 9 games by December 21st in her first season? Okay, can we get that straight?
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do with black or white. However, Dawn Staley's a militant. She took that ride, okay? Well, I'm going to let Ray Tanner know what I think about this.
Yes.
Okay, so here's what I emailed Ray Tanner. I'm waiting for a response today, hopefully. Well, when I shared this with Brian, he was very critical of me, saying I left so much out. Fine, so I'll let you be the judge. Mr. Tanner, I have for years respected what you accomplished as a head baseball coach, winning back-to-back national titles, 2010, 2011, and being named National Coach of the Year 3 times. It does disgust me, however, that your women's basketball coach, Dawn Staley, played the race card after the win versus LSU on Thursday night, saying she wished LSU's former coach, Nikki Fargas, would have gotten the same fan support. Fargas won 9 games in her 10th and final season as athletic director. Would you have retained her? If Nikki Fargas was of another ethnicity other than Dawn Staley's, does she say the same thing? Ray, at your age, your Ancestry.com report, and Staley's success, you just want this to pass, and I surely understand. All the best to you and your family.
See,
I thought that was
cordial.
I thought it was cordial. I thought it was to the point.
Right.
I don't think I can get called in by sending that email, even though it was on my own personal email account, but still to this day, you represent your outfit. So
Speaking of representing your outfit.
Go ahead and let you be negative, let you try to digest my professional email as if you would have taken time and did it, but you didn't take time and do it. I did it. I did it for the LSU fan base, Brian. So what say you?
I don't go to Richard Condon for cordial. I go to Richard Condon for red meat. I go to Richard Condon to rip somebody a new you-know-what. Now, to be fair, Dawn Staley never mentioned race. She never actually said black and white. She never actually mentioned race. But it was like, tell me LSU's racist without telling me LSU's racist. But whether she was speaking from a racial perspective or lobbying for a good friend to land her next job, she can't do that while representing South Carolina.
Man, just think if Trent Johnson and Johnny Jones would have got the same fan support. They would have done what Will Wade do.
No, exactly right. Exactly right. And, oh, by the way, the numbers don't bear out what she has to say. You mentioned it briefly, 9 wins in her last season. But if you follow along with the tapering off of wins every single year, and then she had like one reprieve year, and then it just fell apart.
Before you run me out of here, I remember a time this show was about you bringing on good guests, which you still do, to give people the information they need from leaders and elected officials and people involved with nonprofits. You do a lot of great things, Brian. However, you did not do over the weekend what I did, my friend.
What's that?
I joined the Citizens Academy.
No way!
Yes.
I'm a senior
joined the
Tuesday
Citizens
night?
Academy, got my information in, and I will be in that first class. And you know what? I'm like Mel Gibson when we were soldiers. You know what I'm going to do? I'll be the first one there and the last one to leave. January 22nd, first class, dude. I'm going to be there.
You're going to be there.
I am registered. I am in. See, too many people in this business, B, they just talk a good game. They got jabber jaws. And guess what? You follow me? They like to go for a Chuck E. Cheese. You can't even hit them in the freaking head. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be there right in front. Right in front.
I love it.
Yep.
You need to be there.
And there's a reason you decided you didn't want to do it for your listeners?
No,
I'd like to hear it. Why?
Because it happens on Tuesday nights. I'm also a father of 3. Your kids are grown.
Well, guess what? You can send your 3 kids to my house, and I'll babysit them.
Let's do that. He is Richard Condon. You find him right down the hall on Eagle 98.1. Love you, brother.
Love y'all. Have a great week.
Oh, man.
Thanks, man.
The Dawn Staley shit just has to be boiled over. I know I shouldn't be.
So Flynn stuck his head in the studio on Friday. He said, God, how y'all working here? Because it's brutal. It's so hot. You know, so. Wait, hey, do me a favor. Jay, turn me off just for a second.
I don't know why we had to turn the mics off for that. I mean, the heater was like it's brutally hot down the hall.
Yeah. I found myself walking into the server room over there just to cool down.
I'm looking for that right now.
Tackling the top stories of the day. Brian Kilmeade, weekday mornings from 10 to 1 on Talk 107.3, the new flavor of talk.
Now, your WBRZ traffic update from Ashley Fouché.
A reminder that Livingston goes back to school today, but so far I have not seen any problems on our interstate systems coming in from Denham. Just 9 minutes range to the 10-12 split on I-12 westbound. Looks like delays might be improving on I-10 westbound past Sorrento. There's been an accident in the area throughout the show. Let's take you there live and see what's going on now with a live check. It confirms all lanes are
We need to call him. Let me give you the phone number. Shit, sorry. Well done.
Dr. Mark Sherwood.
Did you actually leave a message? Leave a message then and have him call back. And then try him again in about 3 minutes. Baton Rouge Mattress?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, if he doesn't come through, I'm gonna go with that Joseph Cantor cut.
Talk 107.3. Oh, perfect. I'm doing well, thanks. How are you? Happy New Year to you as well. We're about to be live just now. You ready for us?
6:52. Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Got the CBS World News Roundup coming your way about 7.5 minutes from right now. Yes, we have made it this far into the show without talking COVID, even as the Omicron variant continues to spread and hospitalizations continue to rise in Louisiana. It was a little more than a week ago. The Centers for Disease Control changed up their quarantining guidelines, and I don't know about you, but I was left with a lot of questions. Joining us now to talk about that is a healthy living expert. He is Dr. Mark Sherwood. Dr. Sherwood, good morning. Welcome to Talk 107.3. How are you?
Doing well. Good morning. Thank you for having me, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Glad to have you on here. This has been, we're coming up on the full second anniversary of this pandemic, and it has been a roller coaster ride, to say the least. Trying to keep up with all of it has been difficult. The CDC comes out with new guidelines. Are they confusing things with these new guidelines, or are we just finding that earlier abundance of caution weren't warranted?
I think it's probably both.
Okay.
I think we overreacted on one side of the coin, and now the overreaction has never been owned in the sense that no one's ever said, hey, we overreacted. I think people would understand better at that position other than just continuing to change the target. I mean, when you're changing the target of any sort of life goal or life expectancy or whatever we're looking at, it brings utter confusion. And I know, just like you, I looked at those guidelines and I thought, okay, that doesn't make sense. And then I asked myself the question, what on earth could be next?
No, yeah, absolutely. Because some of this is coming out of left field. We're being told we're all getting a refresher course on masks, and we're being retold that no, they won't protect you breathing in, but they will protect somebody else when you're breathing out. We scaled back quarantine times to 5 days unless your boss calls you into work. I mean, does this hurt their credibility?
Well, I think the credibility, in my opinion, again, not attacking any human being, but the credibility is gone. I mean, right now we've got people that are positive with the variant Omicron. They've been double vaccinated, double boosted, and they're still having their job. And you've got people that are negative or fully recovered, not infected, that don't have a job. I mean, it is so confusing now that I think people around the country, as I've talked to them, there is literally an angry frustration that I have never experienced before. And we need to get a hold of this right now and bring some consistency back to probably, look, it appears to be to me, our statewide responses at least, you know?
That would be an interesting take, because one of the things we've seen within our own state is divvying things up within like districts or regions within the state. That would be a refreshing change of pace to say, hey, Louisiana, handle Louisiana, and we won't judge. Florida, handle Florida, we won't judge. New York, you just go New York, and we won't judge as well.
Right.
I mean, because different states vary based off of how much travel they have, how much tourism they have, what time of year it is, and the like. Yeah, it's all over the board. What kind of complaint? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it is, because I mean, in my journeys of life, and this is not part of our discussion, but even running for governor of the state of Oklahoma to try to bring back the state response, exactly like you said, that is so important right now, to bring back the idea of, okay, if you want to go to Louisiana, go to Louisiana. If you like the way they do things, they're awesome. If you like Oklahoma, go there. And I think people would appreciate that at this point. I think they would be refreshingly happy.
I completely agree. I mean, you know, you're on in South Louisiana right now as we enter the Mardi Gras season, right? It would make sense for us to tighten up a little bit as we know more and more people are coming to town. And then maybe say in when the Boston Marathon runs around, maybe Massachusetts might want to tighten up for a bit. It kind of keep it on a rolling thing which would continue to flatten the curve in different locations.
Well, I agree with that too, and understanding the concept of the viruses, they're going to mutate, and we're going to have different strains of different viruses. We always have. This is not a surprise, and the viruses tend to become more infectious, less deadly as time goes on, and that's something we got to understand as well. So rather than certainly reacting based upon fear of the virus, we probably need to understand that we can respond based on the concept that we're going to have to live with viruses. And I think if we did that, we'd probably have a more uniformed, consistent response.
Dr. Mark Sherwood is our guest. Got about 2.5 minutes left. Doc, what kind of complaints, questions, confusions have you personally seen as a result of these new guidelines?
Well, certainly with our practice, people come in and they have the same questions you have. Do I quarantine? Do I not? We were dealing with that with an employee just recently that actually a husband tested positive. She tested negative. Can I come to work? Can I not come to work? And it has been so confusing. And frankly, the fear and the anxiety generated from the lack of consistency has been the most thing that I've experienced and observed. And that, and those emotions right there, and those responses from the body, certainly, a lot of people know this, will crush the immune system's ability to even defend itself.
Interesting. That something emotional can result in something physical.
It does. Like fear, in a sense, promotes cortisol. We all know that. Mm-hmm. Cortisol in the short term is great. Cortisol in the long term is not so good. We can see increased inflammation, decreased ability to fight the things that are trying to take us out long term, and the body's going to all energy to fight the short-term threat. Well, the short-term threat is persistent. We're not going to be able to fight things like viruses or bacteria or parasites.
Got 60 seconds left with Dr. Mark Sherwood. Doc, got to ask you to solve the whole thing in 60 seconds. How would you put the horse back in the barn from the CDC's perspective?
Obviously, I think I would say, first of all, we're not going to be making decisions by fear any longer. We're going to be calm. We don't know how viruses are going to variate. We need to own that. We need to say, states, you do it. Governors, you do it. Medical personnel, be commonsensical. Don't be reactionary. Allow people to make their choices. Allow them to respond. Teach them how to live healthy again. Teach them what to do on their own to give the body the best tools it needs to defend itself properly.
You know, that's such an interesting aspect of this that has been so overlooked and so under-talked about, is those comorbidities like heart disease, high blood pressure, overweight. I mean, all these things have contributed to a large percentage of the deaths. And in the meanwhile, we're going to have to pick up the conversation another time. We got news coming your way. Dr. Mark Sherwood, thank you so much for hopping on.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Here comes CBS. He was good. That was worth the wait. All right, I'm way behind on what's going on the YouTubes. Let's see. Eric, got to that one. Clinton says, so Murphy Paul can only do so much when it comes to murder stats. You need witnesses and people who won't snitch. Yep, but cops need to be happy. Yes, which puts him in an impossible position. We'll get to that in a second. Cops aren't happy as shown by the massive vacancy list BRPD has. Along with the list of retirements. So, yeah. So how do you solve that problem without... It's such a chicken and egg situation. First of all, you got to raise pay, and he's been working on that. I don't know how he does that without somebody else's approval. Hang on one second. Yes, sir. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Break.
No, I am on break.
Hey, dude, what do you think of that? Thinking about going over the greatest drivers of all time, and the one that's going to be the greatest of all time is developing. Those two trans swimmers. You heard about that over the weekend? The one going from guy to girl, beat the one going from girl to guy. They finished 1-2 in the 200
No
in 100
shit.
meters. It's going to be one of the greatest rivalries of all time. You thought Bird Magic was something? Ali Frazier? Not even going to come close, dude. I'm telling you. Not even close.
You know, it used to be if you took supplements in a competition, hormone supplements, HGH, you were disqualified for that competition.
I remember the good old days, man. Joe Weeder pills and Bullmasters.
That's
damn right.
That's Oh, so Murphy Paul can only do so much when it comes to murder. Okay, cops aren't happy as shown by the massive vacancy list at BRPD. Right, so he's got to get him paid more first and foremost. Secondly, you've got to be able to do your job on the job. And third, and this is probably the most important one, you've got to stop arresting the same people over and over and over again. It is unbelievably infuriating to keep doing the exact same thing, expecting a different result and not getting it. So of those three things, the middle one can be pinned on the chief a little more, although, yeah. The middle one can definitely, you know where that one falls. Why would you want to work for a guy that will throw you under the bus even if you do things right? I don't know that he's thrown anybody under the bus for doing things right. Everyone who's been thrown under the bus has been shown and has gone through the process and the appeals process and everything else, and they've all been borne out to have violated what was going on. I might be missing one. It's Monday. I'm foggy this morning. The indoctrination of the Haldane children at Casa Condon. Let that marinate a few. Yeah, no, that's not going to happen in real life. How many have been overturned? I don't know. It's the hard part about we don't have a crime reporter, an investigative reporter, a legislative reporter. I do news, Jay does entertainment.
This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $100 instant savings with the purchase of Bridgestone or Firestone tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
Sunday's cold front leaving us with some
Gotcha.
clear and cool conditions. This afternoon we'll have plenty of sunshine, but temperatures will max out in the 50s. Tonight the cool air will really set in with temperatures dropping into the low 30s. Some areas may briefly reach freezing, but otherwise it will be a bit frosty and just plain cold to start off your Tuesday.
I thought I saw where
More sunshine and temperatures maxing out around 60 degrees. Overnight temperatures will be a touch warmer in the 30s, but well above freezing on Wednesday morning. Wednesday afternoon coming in with a lot more sunshine.
.706 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hour 2 coming your way right now. Hey, thanks again to Dr. Mark Sherwood for hopping on board. I know that's kind of a shortened segment. We try to squeeze a lot into, 7.5 minutes? But really appreciate Doc's perspective, especially when it comes to his take on letting states run things state by state. I mean, we have a lot of valuable resources here in Louisiana. We got a lot of folks in Louisiana that know what they're doing. We heard from Dr. Joseph Cantor during his press conference last week, and in time permitting, there's more of that audio that I wanted to get to. Didn't have a full shot at it Friday. So, time permitting, we will dive back in on that conversation. We've got Dr. Catherine O'Neill from Our Lady of the Lake, has been a phenomenal resource. You want to talk about knowing how to right the ship, knowing how to make sure we're taking care. Louisiana's taking care of Louisiana. Dr. O'Neill was pivotal in getting the Southeastern Conference to play football in 2020. It was hyper restrictive, yes. There were a lot of guidelines, yes. Limited fan base, yes. But we played football. Making sure we're moving forward and doing it safely, first and foremost. She's been a phenomenal resource on a statewide level. She'll be a phenomenal resource for us in our next segment today. She's part of our She is our Medical Monday segment presented by Our Lady of the Lake. Stephen Wagonsback is going to join us at 7:35. We are talking business. Latest unemployment numbers were out last week. 3.9% is where we're at right now. There's some discrepancy within the numbers, as a large number of jobs have been created, but jobs are still available, and there's a huge number of people just dropping off and giving up, not filing for unemployment anymore, just kind of dropping off the radar. That's all coming up later on this hour. Going to get you to top stories and trending here in just a minute. Before that, though, got to tell you about the folks over at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. You got 2 locations of the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet where you can test drive your favorite mattress or find out which one is your favorite mattress by giving them all a test drive. 4065 Florida Boulevard, or the corner of Jefferson and Hoosier in the southeastern portion of the parish. 4065 Florida Boulevard is, of course, in Mid-City. Swing by. Mitch Kimball and his team want to take care of you. They've got a ton of sale prices going on right now. The end of the year warehouse clearance sales are over with. But Mitch is always going to be, if not the best price around, within the ballpark. And if you can't make up for it with the absolute best price around, you're going to get the best service around. You mentioned you heard about it here. You will get the best price. You will get a free pillow along with your purchase, and you will get free delivery. And I'm not talking like some $5 Walmart pillow. I'm talking like a $50 pillow. The bamboo pillow's unbelievable. Free delivery goes along with that as well. 4065 Florida Boulevard, the corner of Jefferson and Hoosier 2. A great night's sleep starts with a great mattress. Mitch and his team at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet are here to take care of you. Time for top stories and trending. Let's roll. So last week we told you the Office of Motor Vehicles location in Baton Rouge was shutting down amid a spike in coronavirus cases. Well, that office in Baton Rouge will reopen today after that shutdown. They temporarily closed due to COVID-19 precautions. Everyone was sent to expresslane.org. The Gonzales OMV location was open last week. Well, now the main office in Baton Rouge reopened as well. A daycare caught fire around 6:30 yesterday morning. Took firefighters nearly 2 hours to have the blaze under control. Baton Rouge Fire Department responded to Raising Angels Learning Center on Haymarket Avenue. Fire officials said when the crew arrived at the scene, they were met with heavy smoke coming off the top of the roof. They discovered the fire was coming from the ceiling of the building. It was put out by about 8:30 a.m. The daycare sustained heavy smoke and water damage. No one was inside at the time of the emergency. Department officials say the cause is as yet undetermined. Foul play is not suspected in this case. In an effort to keep schools open and operating safely during the pandemic, Louisiana Department of Health has created a program to provide students, faculty, and staff with free weekly COVID tests. The PCR test will be available at any public, private, or parochial school in the greater Baton Rouge area. Those schools must register with LDH to participate. The initiative comes as several schools in the area are transitioning either back and forth between virtual, back to the classroom, back home, and whatnot, coming off the winter break. Had two more schools added that virtual list. Villa Del Rey's going virtual, as has Broadmoor High. Law enforcement officers shot and killed a person who allegedly threatened them with a gun during a Saturday night arrest attempt of his twin brother. State police report 25-year-old Dion Willis was killed by an East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's deputy in an apartment complex on George O'Neill Road, while Baton Rouge police officers and EBR Sheriff's deputies were attempting to arrest an alleged kidnapping suspect, Keon Willis, at the Springbrook apartment complex around 3:30 p.m. Saturday. Keon was apparently on his way to Oklahoma with his alleged kidnapping victim, who was able to fight him off and escape while they were in Alexandria. BRPD has determined Dion and Keon are twins. Keon was booked on charges of attempted third-degree rape, sexual battery, simple kidnapping, and domestic abuse battery of a pregnant victim. State police said the group of law enforcement officers attempted to contact Dion, who was in the apartment where Keon and Dion live. According to state police, Willis brandished a firearm at responding law enforcement. You know where the rest of the story went from there. 2 people have died. 3 others are suffering injuries in the hospital from 4 separate shootings across Baton Rouge Sunday. BRPD said 1 person was shot at Roulette Street, 2 other along Government Street Sunday morning. Police said the 3 victims have sustained life-threatening injuries. They are in the hospital. Police said 1 person was shot and killed along Lobdell Avenue, 3:30 p.m. Sunday. Another person was shot and killed near the corner of Dallas Drive and South Choctaw around 6 p.m. This, according to sources, a very, very violent Sunday in Baton Rouge. At your top stories, here's a look at what's trending this morning. Actor and comedian Bob Saget passed away over the weekend. 65 years old, found dead in his Orlando hotel room Sunday night. According to the Orange County Sheriff's Office, Saget was found unresponsive at the Ritz-Carlton in Orlando, pronounced dead at the scene. The office said detectives found no signs of foul play or drug use as the cause of his death. Of course, Bob Saget from Full House and America's Funniest Home Videos. He had performed a show the night before in Jacksonville's Ponte Vedra Concert Hall. Got to see Bob Saget perform stand-up live. A remarkably funny man. He will be sorely missed. 714, Talk 107.3 FM. We're running a little bit long. We got Medical Monday coming your way next. Dr. Catherine O'Neill is set to join us.
Assistant, does Demco really send students to Washington, D.C.? Here's what I found on that. High school juniors can enter the 2022 Demco Essay Contest. Winners will receive an all-expenses-paid trip of a lifetime to Washington, D.C. Hope I'm not too late. When's the deadline? Entries are due by January 21st. So, how can I get more information? For rules and info, visit demco.org. Demco, your Touchstone Energy Cooperative.
How do you choose the right attorney? I give you the answer at murphylawfirm.com. Don't allow insurance companies to take advantage of you. Make the right decision. Don't leave money on the table. Visit murphylawfirm.com or call me, Attorney Peyton Murphy, at 928-8800. Main office, Baton Rouge.
10709. GatorWorks believes that your website should be the perfect full-time salesperson, one that always looks sharp, never says the wrong thing, and is always available. If your website isn't creating more leads for your business,
I think so.
Because this day in history, Dow Corning provides $295 billion to sell breast implants.
Yeah, I think they were exploding. Rupturing, not exploding. Like leaking. Yeah, no. It wasn't like... Yeah.
Deadline for entries January 31st, 2021. The LABI Scholarship Program. Good for you, good for us, great for Louisiana.
This is a court-ordered notice. Current and former Volkswagen and Audi owners or lessees may be eligible to receive payments and other benefits from a legal settlement related to allegedly defective Takata airbags in their vehicles. To see if your vehicle is included and to file a claim, go to autoairbagsettlement.com or call 1-888-735.
Galen says Carl Davidy's statistics were much better, yet he was shown the door. Here's the thing, though, COVID completely agree. And there's no way. It's like comparing Babe Ruth's statistics to Barry Bonds, right? Murder is up everywhere. The disconnect in society is everywhere. Oh, good. But again, it's murder's up everywhere. You can't compare one year to the next because there's changes societally. But at the same time, though, if the data was there then, I'd have to be disproven before admitting that the data wouldn't be what it was then now. It's a weird spot. It is time for Medical Monday here on Talk 107.3 FM. And what a little mix-up on the intro there. It is time for Medical Monday here on Talk 107.3 FM, presented by Our Lady of the Lake Regional Medical Center. COVID has, of course, been an ongoing topic and will continue to be for some time. Every so often, though, there's a number of questions that need to be answered, and right now we're going to talk testing. Dr. Catherine O'Neill with Our Lady of the Lake joins us. Dr. O'Neill, good morning. Welcome back to Talk 107.3. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing very well. So Omicron's everywhere now, and it has raised all the alarms. We're all back in our rotating 2-minute drill, as it were. And folks are looking for at-home tests. Now, there's been a lot of questions about testing, so I was hoping you could address as many of them as possible.
We will try, for sure. There are lots of questions. I agree.
Let's start with this. The at-home tests, how accurate are they?
It depends on your symptoms, and that's a really hard answer to hear, right? So couple things about testing. The first is that when you approach a test, you have to look at who's doing the swab. I'm sure that many of us on the line right now have been swabbed to the point of feeling like we had a brain biopsy. That was a joke that we threw around in 2020, but it was a very deep swab. And the deeper you go, the more likely you are to get really good nasal passage secretion. So your test is going to increase in quality. At-home tests obviously don't allow you to go that far back because then you're going to end up in the ER if you're doing it yourself. So at-home tests are more like nasal swabs. And so just from the get-go, because of that, you're going to lose a little bit of sensitivity. And then if you're performing an at-home test because you're asymptomatic, for instance, say I want to go to a wedding on Friday, and so on Thursday I perform an at-home test because I just want to make sure that I don't have COVID. If you are asymptomatic, you may develop COVID that night. You may develop COVID as you're headed home from the wedding. We never know when our viral load is going to spike. And so we have all of this data now that shows that those at-home tests are not as sensitive for picking up your disease if they're done when you're asymptomatic and if they're done very early on in the infection. They are better if you are more symptomatic or a little bit later in your infection. So it depends on how you use it.
If you are asymptomatic, should you even be taking an at-home test?
You should be taking an at-home test if you're asymptomatic for two big reasons. The first is what we just described. You're going to go to a very high-risk situation. And while they're not perfect, if you are asymptomatic and you find yourself to be positive, you should stay home. We have known since 2020 that there are this set of people who are going to shed virus and be infectious but don't know that they are infectious. Maybe they've blown off some mild symptoms. Maybe they had a headache or thought they had allergies. Maybe they're truly asymptomatic, but they could still give other people COVID. So if you're going to go to a high-risk situation where you're going to be talking and visiting very loudly in a crowded place, it's probably best to test right now because we have so many people who are infected. The other reason that you would test if you're asymptomatic is if you're a close contact. So you've been defined as somebody who is at high risk of converting to symptomatic over the next several days, and that's why we still recommend close contact testing. So if I went to do something this weekend and then I get a call today and I hear, oh, the person that I was with was positive, I need to get a test today, and I need to get a test in 3 to 5 days to make sure that I don't become somebody who then spreads COVID.
Okay, so if you're asymptomatic and you're taking a test and it comes out positive, you've got to go through the protocols and everything with that positivity. But if you're asymptomatic and you take a test and it comes out negative, you can't trust that negative at the time?
You can trust the negative. We're talking about varying degrees of false negativity. If you continue to feel bad, you should repeat your test, and that is why you get 2 tests as a close contact. But everything in life is a risk, and so if I'm going to take the chance of believing my test, these tests are really, really good. So even though they've made the news lately that maybe our at-home tests are not as great, you're still talking about a really, really good test. How many women out there have taken their first pregnancy test only to find out that several days later they were pregnant, right? and it happens.
Sure.
No test is foolproof. Every test has a little bit of times in which it's not going to give you the right answer, but overall these are good tests if they're used in the right way.
What about symptomatic? I mean, obviously, if you're symptomatic, you're more likely to pop positive anyway. So should you skip the at-home and go get a professional to get this done, to get an answer from someone else?
I'll tell you that I've used symptomatic testing in my own house for a couple of reasons. I don't want to wait in line. Okay. And in our house, the likelihood of being COVID positive is high. We both work in the hospital, my husband and I, and then my kids go to school, and so we're around a lot of people. If I'm positive on an at-home test, I have COVID. I don't need to go and verify that with a PCR. If I have symptoms and my test is positive, I have COVID. I'm not going to need to prove otherwise. So if you have an at-home test, that's much more convenient. But if that at-home test is negative, like we just talked about, you probably do need to go and get that PCR test and just confirm before you go back into the office, into school, and possibly infect other people. So it's a really good, much quicker test to confirm positivity than waiting in line.
I mean, waiting in line is one thing, but spending an entire tank of gas driving all around town looking for an at-home test, Doc. I mean, come on.
I am. They're out there, and they're becoming more available this week. We'll see them passed out at fire stations and libraries through the state. So I would grab some. They're great to have on those mornings where you wake up and you just feel like, am I sick, or is this just my sinuses? It's best to have an at-home test and just make sure that you're okay. And so as we see those come into the community from the federal government, I would encourage everybody to have a test or 2 at home just in case.
I love when the guest puts it on a tee for my next question, because that's exactly where I was going. I'm a little bit hoarse this morning. Every year of my life, I have had the exact same postnasal drip and scratchy throat at this time of year. I mean, you could set your sundial to it at a certain point. You set your calendar to it. This year, though, these things qualify as COVID symptoms as well. How should folks be approaching their normal annual, allergies, the temperatures all over the place, so it's going to cause a little bit, versus being overly alarmed, or I shouldn't say overly alarmed, but cautious of where we're at within the pandemic?
That's a great question. I totally anticipate that lots of people will have sinus congestion and scratchy throats tomorrow as we go from a hot day to a very cold day, right? Mm-hmm. And when you do, the best thing to do is go ahead and test. Now, that's easier said than done because we don't have that many available at-home tests, but they're coming to our community, and what we don't want people to do is to say, well, I haven't been doing it, so I don't need to. We want you to grab these at-home tests. We want you to keep them at home so that you can verify your status before you start your workday. And we don't want work disrupted. We have so much workplace absenteeism right now. The last thing we want you to do is spend a whole day trying to figure out your status. So grab some of these at-home tests. Keep them around. My mom lives in Scott. She got several at the Walgreens the other day before she came to see my kids because we wanted to make sure that we were all okay. And so I know that they are available, and I know that they're going to be even more available. Make sure you take advantage of that by grabbing some and having them in your house so that you can test.
Coming off the holidays, we are now over a full week removed from where we would all gather for New Year's Eve or Christmas. Over 2 weeks removed from Christmas. What kind of window are we looking at before everything settles back down to we're in our normal bubbles, in our normal routines?
I was hoping that our normal routine would, obviously kick in the week after Christmas. Now, we still have a lot of schools that had variable dates that they went back to school, and then we have a couple of college campuses starting. So we have some disruption ahead, but somewhere 10 to 14 days after that last big disruptive period, we should expect to see numbers at least level out and settle down. And that's what I'm hoping. We'll see if it plays out. Omicron is so much more infectious that we can take some of our lessons learned before, but we really are in a little bit of an uncharted territory again.
Speaking of uncharted territory, I want to go back to where you mentioned about the at-home test and the positivity. Mm-hmm. If you take the at-home test and you pop positive, you said there's no reason to go take a formal test from a professional somewhere else. But that also leaves you outside of the reported numbers. Where does that leave the medical community in tracking Omicron? Because, remember when contact tracing was like all the headline and everything? If you're taking an at-home test, you're kind of off the COVID grid.
You are, and we have to accept that. To win this battle against COVID, we have to get testing as close to you as possible. And so then we are going to miss some data. And honestly, if we're going to move on and make this part of our regular life, we're going to have to take the good and the bad. The good is that you have a test at home and that you can go to work if you're negative and feel with some confidence that you're okay. The bad is that I'm going to miss that number if you're positive on our state testing. And the state accounts for that. They know that there's a certain number of people who they're just not going to find out are positive. After 2 years, we do expect everybody. And I think this is a reasonable expectation. If your test was positive, you should know what to do. You should know to isolate. You should know that you now have COVID and you have to stay away from people. So the downstream effect of that positive test is part of the lessons that we all are going to have to live with as part of COVID pandemic that's not going away anytime soon. And that's, if you're positive, stay at home.
What are your general takes on Omicron so far? I mean, we're just as Dr. O'Neill, like just speaking as your own personal take, it clearly spreading faster. But is it hopeful that it's less serious?
It is just one of the most infectious things we've seen in a long time. It's infecting people with prior immunity, either from natural infection or from vaccination that's too far away. And then it's infecting lots of people who were never vaccinated to begin with, as each surge has. And unfortunately, what that's done is it's shown us that even with a, quote unquote, relatively mild, which is not mild, it's a very bad flu-like illness. It's a very bad flu-like illness. We're just so used to seeing people die that we think a bad flu-like illness is okay now. And what bad flu-like illnesses do to our community is it keeps a lot of people from going to work, and it also keeps a lot of people still coming to the hospital, especially fragile patients, people with lots of other comorbidities, and then people who are unvaccinated still look like they are just sick, just plain COVID sick. Don't take everything that you've heard in the news about Omicron and Delta and toss it over your shoulder. If you are unvaccinated right now, you have a decent risk of coming to the hospital very sick, staying with us for many days, possibly in the ICU. And so that is my takeaway. It's still a really bad infection. I don't think we'll ever see COVID become a cold. That's just not going to happen. It's worse than that. And so we need to find ways to protect ourselves. I think we're doing that. We have the tools. We need to get more people vaccinated, especially our kids. And we need to be careful when we have these surges about just adding a few layers of protection like testing to help ourselves.
This one's going to change the topic a little bit, but I did want to touch on it as well, as we're now, as of Friday, we were back up over 1,500 COVID patients in the hospital. How are things at Our Lady of the Lake? Are we still seeing a lot of people coming in for just coming into the ER to get a test?
That's better. Our
Okay,
ER
good.
still has way too many patients in it, but it's people don't feel well right now, and so lots of them are seeking care in the only way that they know how, which is through the ED. We do have our call-in numbers. We really want people to try to televisit instead of coming to the ED if they have those flu-like symptoms. We can do a lot of good without having to bring you into the ED to see you, and we want our most severe patients to come into the hospital and be seen. But less people just coming for a test, and that's great. We are also seeing just a huge impact of the nationwide shortage of blood, and so I would be remiss if I didn't say something today about that. On top of COVID, on top of supply chains, there is just no blood in our community and no blood in the nation. And we got notices last week, all hospitals did, that you may need to consider not having any more surgeries because there's just not enough blood in the national blood supply. So if we could have people give blood today, tomorrow, and all week to help build that blood supply back, we're at a critical shortage right now.
I didn't see that one coming.
I know it. But this is what happens. Just like your toilet paper and your groceries, blood banks rely on volunteers, just truly heroic people who keep this on a regular schedule, and our life is so disrupted that it is disrupted too. So whether you're having a knee replacement, maybe you're having heart surgery, maybe a family member of yours is scheduled to have an abdominal surgery, if you know somebody who's having surgery, the best thing you could do right now is go and donate blood so that they can actually have that surgery in the future.
Well, I am a regular donor. I volunteer with
that's
Vitalent.
awesome.
So, I couldn't be a bigger proponent of this. And, the Christmas holidays are a big time where there's more people on the road and fewer people in their normal routine, so donations do drop on a regular basis. I would imagine COVID is just exacerbating an already bad situation. Dr. O'Neill, thank you so much for the time and the information this morning. I greatly appreciate you taking out some of your morning.
Thank you for having us on. Take care.
Always. You do the same. Dr. Katie O'Neill, she's been a phenomenal resource. Not enough time to unpack that. Here's CBS News. I'm going to have to replay that like 1,000 times over. You know what? That interview might be sound bites for a segment tomorrow. Because if you heard what I heard, and now, granted, if you are a freedom-loving person, you probably believe that there should have never been a leash in the first place. But did you hear in her answers a loosening of the leash is where we should... We're 2 years into this. You should damn well know how to adult. Those were my words, paraphrasing her. She didn't say that. But she said we're 2 years into this. People should know how to be responsible by now. Oh, my goodness! Don't let Dr. Fauci hear what Dr. O'Neill just had to say. Basically, she said grown-ups are going to have to grown up at some point. Adults are going to have to get back to adulting. Bigfoot caused COVID. Yes. Byron says I like to fall asleep on a My Pillow. It lulls me to sleep by whispering Alex Jones-ish conspiracy theories in my ear. Byron, you're 100% wrong because nothing about Alex Jones ever whispers. What was the oh, now I gotta find it. Cool. Oh, where's the deadgum Alex Jones thing? There it is. All right, Alex Jones. Here we go. People watch that thing and seriously.
It's an internet classic right
They're
there.
putting chemicals in the water that turn the frogs gay. I don't know how you live your life and just not enjoy Alex Jones as a performance artist. Eric says YouTube gonna ban this.
Doing well, thanks. We're going to be live in just a couple of moments.
Stories of the day. Brian Kilmeade, weekday mornings from 10 to 1 on Talk 107.3, the new flavor of talk.
Sunday's cold front leaving us with some clear and
Cool.
cool this afternoon. We'll have plenty of sunshine, but temperatures will max out in the mid-50s. Tonight, the cool air will really set in with temperatures
Damn it.
into the low 30s. Some areas may briefly reach freezing, but otherwise it will be a bit
Spinal Tap encouraged us to turn it up to 11. Alex Jones inspires us to dial it to -5. It goes to 11. No, but this one goes to 11. .736 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Time for us to talk business. Time to welcome in the president of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, Stephen Wagonsback. Stephen, good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Brian. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing very well this morning. Very well.
Very well.
Yeah,
Good.
very well. Absolutely. I mean, Saints beat the Falcons. They come up short for the playoffs, but honestly, all that does is spare me heartache for next weekend. So,
yeah, I was kind of mixed on that as well. If you're not going to make the playoffs, you always like to have a little worse record so you can get the better draft pick. But it's also good to see that there's a lot of good core to this team with all the adversity they faced. They actually did a pretty good showing. I mean, Sean Payton did probably one of his best coaching jobs ever this year. So there's something to build with. We just got some tough questions in the offseason to figure out.
Quarterback. Quarterback
yeah,
first and
that's
foremost.
question number one.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got a lot going on right now. You are, if I'm not mistaken, at a conference with a number of other CEOs of the different state chambers of commerce. What's going on there? What are y'all talking about?
Yeah, I apologize. I thought I had a good spot to call you, and a leaf blower just came in next to me. So I've been walking around outside, so I apologize if there's
all good.
Noise in the background. But, yeah, so once a year we get together, the Council of State Chambers, which is all the state chamber CEOs like myself around the country, and we sit and we hear political updates and economic updates, and we share best practices with our peers around the country. And, yesterday was day one. Today's going to be day two. There's a lot more information to come, and I'll be able to digest it more as the week goes on. But I will tell you, yesterday, a couple big takeaways. One, we started with a political update of what's going on up there from some of the insiders in D.C. and everything. And two things relevant to Louisiana, I think. One, it seems to be a really, really, and this is probably not going to be news to people who follow this, but there's really strong likelihood that the House will switch hands in the off season this fall. That the midterms will go to where the Republicans will take over the House, and obviously with Louisiana, where Steve Scalise is, and where Mike Johnson is, and some of the other leaders we have in the House, the potential to kind of move up in subcommittee chairs and all. That's good news for our delegation. We're well suited to be a strong voice in leadership, which is good for this state in a big way. The other piece is, and speaking quite frankly to my peer Steve Roberts, who chairs the West Virginia State Chamber. Who's very close to Senator Manchin. It really feels like Senator Manchin is growing more and more frustrated with the Build Back Better approach. I think that bill has significant trouble of getting a second life here early in the year, and I don't see that moving very soon. So I don't think you're going to have more inflation busting bills coming up anytime soon, especially with the support of Senator Manchin. I don't see him budging on that filibuster rule, and it does seem like this fall there's a high likelihood of political turnover in the House, which could really benefit Louisiana. So that's one big takeaway there.
Okay.
The second, economically, real quick, is, look, BRAC put out a report earlier, a few days ago, basically saying that there's some good growth over the year, which is great to hear. But if you start looking more nationally at some of our numbers, some of the frustrating things I'm seeing is, look, when it comes to the South, there are a lot of states, their GDP is growing, their population is expanding. We are an outlier. When you get national economists to come in and do that, over the last decade, we are losing people compared to other states in the South. We are losing manufacturing jobs, which we all often think that we are doing very well at. We're losing many of those jobs to other states in the South. And our GDP was one of the second biggest drop last quarter behind New Hampshire, and many other states in the South are actually gaining while we're dropping. So we've got some challenges on that front that we got to fix. And the last takeaway I would say is when you talk about what are some of the solutions that we need, workforce, crime, those are the two things we spend a lot of time talking about here in Louisiana. Every state is battling the same dynamic. And so if there is some good news on that, the things we're focused on are the right things, and the solutions are hard for every state to figure out.
Okay, so much to unpack from there. I'm looking at the clock. We've got 9 minutes, and we're already going to run out of time. Let's go back to the top, and the House is likely to flip in the fall with the midterm elections. I know I'm putting the cart before the horse by asking this, but is Steve Scalise going to be the Speaker?
Well, obviously, heck if I know. I'm the
Okay.
wrong guy to ask that. But I can tell you my theory. My theory is he's tremendously respected by his colleagues, that Steve does a really good job not just representing Louisiana, but also being a core leader up there, and he's highly respected. You know, I don't know what's going to happen there, but I think he's in very strong situation going into it. I'll just say it like that. But regardless of whether he has that role or a different role, you know he's going to be a key leader in that House, which is great for us.
I got to find a complete political nerd to ask this question of, because if he is, then when was the, and like, this is just me being a nerd here, Stephen. I'm not actually asking for an answer. When was the last time the exact same congressional district produced two different speakers?
See, that's a good nerd drinking game right there. I don't know, but when you find the answer, I'll have a shot with you.
Well, so, no, I mean, if Scalise gets named, Bob Livingston had the same spot for the same seat. So.
Oh, absolutely. And look, just a little sidebar on that. I know we're running out of time, but I was a Young Hill staffer back then, and I remember being so excited on the Bob Livingston take over the speaker day. And I remember when he went to the floor and announced he was not going to, instead he was going to step down. Just how deflating that moment was. I'll never forget being a Young Hill staffer in a congressional office building, watching that live, and just the air came out of the room when that announcement happened. But going back to Scalise, look, I think he's got a great chance to get that role. But you know, he's a team player. He works well with Speaker. Minority McCarthy. You know, they're grown men. They'll figure that out.
Yeah, and there's something to be said for knowing his role and not wanting to grow out of his role, and being that hustler behind the scenes as well. Hey, talking about our state losing population from the state's chamber, from LABI's perspective, and you mentioned Brack's work as well. What else can y'all do to set the table? I mean, it feels like everything is being lined up in the right order. Where's the missing ingredient?
You know, what's interesting is when you look at some of the national numbers we saw yesterday, the big movement changes. Well, let me say it this way. You've obviously got the baby boomers. You know, they're all aging out. So that's one thing. And you saw a major population decline gradually since at the end of the World War II and the soldiers coming home. There was a little spike back in the 90s, and then it's been a precipitous drop since then. So we are producing less people every single year. So that's one issue. So the fight for people among states is becoming more competitive because people are having smaller families. That's one thing. The second thing is it's the younger worker, the under 30 worker that they were showing us that moves around a lot. That those are the ones that are kind of the free agents the state can go grab, and also the ones that are most likely to be the ones you lose. And so if you're really trying to zero in on how do we keep and retain as many under 30s as we can, and how do we steal more from other states, I think we got to get smart. And one is we got to figure out where do they want to live. Yes, they want to live in a good culture and near parades and all that joie de vivre we have, but they also want to make sure they can afford a house. Right. That they can have a road to live on, and they can have a job that works. And so we got to do a better job, I think, of focusing on what under 30s want. They also want that quality of life stuff. They want good parks. They want clean roads. They want litter under control. They want all that stuff as well as a job and a low cost of living. The second piece is in the gig economy, the rapid escalation in people filing businesses to basically go work alone. You can do that anywhere with a laptop. And so we also have to start recruiting in other states and saying, look, you can work at Google. You can work at Amazon. You can work at big tech, but you can live in Baton Rouge or a rural area here, and you can live near the water, hunting and fishing. You can do that here. So you have to recruit some of those gig workers as this being a destination place, because a laptop can be, you can be employed anywhere. You don't have to live in the crime and the high cost and high taxes in some of those other states. So I think that's another way we can try to battle this tide of losing people.
Yeah, cost of living is going to be so huge this entire decade, as places like Silicon Valley or New York or San Francisco, where it costs you a lot more to live on a day-to-day basis. You don't have to be there anymore. You could be literally wherever you want.
And look, the numbers showed it that we saw yesterday. People are absolutely leaving California, New York, and Illinois. Those are the three big ones.
Yeah.
And they are moving south. And other states in the south are winning. They're grabbing those folks. We are an absolute outlier. We're losing population at a time when other southern states are growing. That means we have to look hard in the mirror and say, look, we got to fix some things. And I think it's some of the stuff we just talked about, but we got to bring under 30s into the dialogue. You know, if I were in charge right now, I would say, look, we're going to put a task force and bring under 30s and say, what do we need to do? Let them tell us what is needed to attract those workers, because we have a lot to sell here, but right now under 30s aren't buying when they're looking in the South.
You mentioned that every state is fighting crime across the board, and I know this is flippant for me to put it like this, but to me, crime is like the transfer portal. Yes, it's happening everywhere, but I only care about what's going on at my school, so it always looks worse within our own lens. What have you gotten some like real life examples? I mean, folks are sharing the same thing across the board.
Yeah, and look, I hate to say this, but when you look at some of the violent crime versus property crime, there's like a little metrics that they showed us yesterday, and we are in the bottom part of that ranking also. So we are, our crime issue is statistically worse than many other states, but everyone's battling it. For example, Mississippi to our east, talking to their state chamber CEO, great guy, and he was explaining how, Jackson, where their capital is, just tremendously big crime problems there. It's kind of taken over the whole downtown. I've had a few other folks, when I talked about our new offices we just built next to our state capitol, they said, oh, we could never have our offices next to the capitol. It's not safe. We couldn't walk there. So there's good news. That's not what the Baton Rouge downtown is right now. We moved downtown a year and a half ago. We love it. We're walking around. We're having a great time. Clay Young and his team have put together cameras down there to improve safety. So we've got some good things going, but statistically, our property crime and violent crime rates are pretty low compared to others.
So y'all got a big annual meeting coming up.
1 month from today.
I mean,
1 month from today at the Ground Plaza.
Yeah.
The LABI annual meeting. It's going to be a great, great day. Sarah Thomas is going to be our speaker. She is the first female to referee an NFL Super Bowl, and she's going to talk about her experiences in breaking through that and some of the life lessons she learned from that. That morning, we're going to have a panel that's filled with some healthcare experts to talk about where this whole Omicron thing is going and what we can expect from the economy. We're also going to have that morning the chairs of the House and Senate redistricting committees, John Stefanski and Sharon Hewitt. That'll be about 10 days in probably to the redistricting session. And hopefully by then they can talk about what's going on, what the maps are looking like, what the plan from here is, because everyone's waiting to see what's going to happen with these new lines that impact us all. So it's going to be an action-packed day. You don't want to miss it. Tickets are selling fast, and so you got to sign in now. So you can go to our website at labi.org to find more information and to find out how to get a ticket.
He is Stephen Wagonsback, president of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Yeah, that redistricting session, I know I nerd out on this stuff, but how that plays out is going to be very, very curious to me, because you would think just general population and geographical boundaries would rule the day, but there's so much more that goes into it once doors are opened and closed in back rooms and whatnot.
Yeah, it's a challenging process, but going to your first point, if you are a political nerd out there, this is the Super Bowl of political nerddom. And so you want to pay attention that first week of February, because the legislature will come in. They only do this once a decade, and how they redraw these lines, very interesting to watch, but also very important to how we're going to be governed over the next decade.
It'll be the second Super Bowl with a female referee.
There you go. I like where you're going with this.
I got the tagline for you right there. Steve Wagonsback, president of LABI. Thank you so much for hopping on board. Enjoy the conference. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, Brian. Have a great week.
You too. Coming up on 750 and Talk 107.3. He brings a referee into the conference. That's kind of cool. All right. Your money now. Outside Ins coming up next on Talk 107.3. Okay. Ooh, that was surprising. The hell are we listening to? What is this? Is that Joe Buck? Yeah. Okay.
Take back control of your retirement. I'm Gregory Ricks. Join me in Sullivan Steakhouse for a wine whiskey experience. Tuesday, February 1st, or Thursday, February 3rd at 6:30. We'll have great food, wine, and talk about strategies to help you win at retirement. Visit GregoryRicks.com to reserve your seat or call the office 225
Jay Cook.
4282.
Firm offers insurance services. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
GatorWorks believes that your website should be the perfect full-time salesperson, one that always looks sharp, never says the wrong thing, and is always available. If your website isn't creating more leads for your business, what is it doing? Visit our salesperson.
Gotcha.
GatorWorks.com.
No.
About this time of year, the 3F, fall, football, and fishing. And so why don't you take your fishing game to the next level with our friends
So if we use that, can't you kind of repeat the last segment?
Possibly. Okay.
How do you choose the right attorney? I give you the answers at MurphyLawFirm.com. Don't allow insurance companies to take advantage of you. Make the right decision. Don't leave money on the table. Visit MurphyLawFirm.com or call me, Attorney Peyton Murphy, at 928-8800. Main office, Baton Rouge.
Now, your WBRZ traffic update from Ashley Fouché.
With Livingston going back to school, we've got more cars on I-12 this morning. Your drive time bumped up. A slow pocket certainly between Range and the AV River Bridge. That's just past Range. 17 minutes race into 10-12. Another slow pocket there right by the 10-12 merge. No issues on the Mississippi River Bridge. So far this morning, we haven't seen any problems there, and that looks nice. Westbound through PBR, also smooth. No problems with Blackers Ferry. That's running. Let's take you outside. Check out those cameras where you can see for yourself. It looks good in Prairieville. The bridge clear.
See an accident? Report it at WBRZ Traffic on Twitter.
This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $100 instant savings with the purchase of 4 eligible Bridgestone or Firestone tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
$7:55, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Thanks again to Stephen Wagonsback from LABI for hopping on board. Yeah, I'm totally going to nerd out when it comes time for the redistricting. Totally going to nerd out when it comes time for if we see a red wave over the fall midterm elections and Republicans regain control of the House. Coming up next hour, we're going to hear from Dan Ahdoot. He's a actor and comedian. He's got a new show on the Food Network called Raid the Fridge. Got about 8 minutes worth with Dan that we'll cover. We're also going to talk to Matt Moscona. Matt's the host of After Further Review on 104.5, 104.9 ESPN. Tonight is the national championship. Alabama and Georgia squaring off for a replay of the SEC championship. Will it play out the same way it played out last time these two teams squared off? We'll see. Also going to put a button on the Saints season with Matt. Getting you to the outside in just a second. Got to tell you about the folks over at Mathern's Market. You can find them downtown on 3rd Street. You can find them on campus, right across the street from Tiger Stadium, Nicholson at Skip Burtman Drive, in the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center. It is king cake time, y'all. Mathern's is your king cake headquarters. Time to get over there and grab your king cakes as of today. Well, actually, as of last week, actually. But if you haven't gotten in on it yet, you need to get on it now. They've got the just fantastic king cakes, all the fillings you could possibly want, whether it be the strawberry, the raspberry, the cream cheese, the Bavarian, the praline, or just go with the original. Yes, I say original. I don't say plain because it is original. Traditionalist. Nicholson at Skip Urban Drive. And oh, by the way, as parade season approaches, all your parading is a lot like tailgating, isn't it? Well, everything you needed for tailgating, you got at Mathern's. Everything you need to hit up the parade route, you also get at Mathern's. Speaking of tailgating, if you've got a viewing party going on tonight for the Natty, swing by Mathern's. Get yourself some catering trays. Get yourself some finger sandwiches or a couple of 6-packs of beer. Either way, Mathern's Market. Downtown on 3rd or Nicholson at Skip Burtman Drive. Here comes the outside in. The Point Capee Parish Sheriff's Office said it busted a juvenile burglary ring where they believe a group of 3 teens were responsible for wreaking havoc on the parish. Grabbing this one from our news partners at WBRZ. In all, they're responsible for as many as 10 burglaries, according to Sheriff Renee Thibodeau. Thibodeau said the juveniles stole 2 cars within 29 minutes one night. Cash and weapons were also missing. Yesterday's storms were a lot worse northwest of here, heading up to Sabine Parish, where the sheriff's office says a suspected tornado destroyed a mobile home and injured 5 members of a family in the Peason community. It might be Peason. Never been there before. Damaged or destroyed 15 homes, 5 barns, numerous sheds and vehicles, also downed trees, knocked out power throughout the area as well. The conditions of the injured in Sabine Parish were not immediately known. There were no reported fatalities. Next stop, St. Landry Parish. A juvenile was shot in Eunice Friday night. Witnesses say shots were fired at 2 minors by a masked suspect with a dark hoodie. This incident happened in a parking lot of a convenience store on the 600 block of East Laurel Avenue on US 190 around 10 p.m. Friday night. Police say the shooter approached in the parking lot on foot, fled in the direction in which he came. Closing out Tangipahoa Parish, although Christmas is come and gone, SLU, or SELU, Southeastern, said area residents have time to give a gift to the environment. They are collecting your discarded Christmas trees over at SLU. They can be dropped off now through Mardi Gras at the Hammond Maintenance Facility on Highway 190 by the Piggly Wiggly. I love wrapping up the outside in with the phrase, by the Piggly Wiggly. It doesn't get more outside in than by the Piggly Wiggly. Oh, man. All right. Obviously, it isn't Alex's voice used with the pillow. He hired Jim Ickster to voice the theories. Ah, got you. That would be where you know the gay frog's middle name. Food Network used to have a Gordon Elliott show. I don't know who Gordon Elliott is. Called Door Knock Dinners. He and the chef that week would randomly walk up to a house and cook whatever they had on hand. It was good. This is going to be similar to that. At some point, I want to have the conversation. If you did an at-home test and you pop positive, but you're asymptomatic, what are you doing? Are you going to follow all the quarantining guidelines? Are you going to take yourself out of the game for a week? Or are you going to, and be honest, will you just say, I'm fine, I'm good? Like, I don't feel it, I feel fine, don't tell me I'm positive. Oh, the one question I forgot to ask Dr. O'Neill. Yeah, we see false negatives. Have we seen false positives?
There are no laggards listed.
Okay. Okay.
This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $100 instant savings with the purchase of 4 eligible Bridgestone or Firestone tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
Sunday's cold front leaving us with some clear and cool conditions. This afternoon we'll have plenty of sunshine, but temperatures will max out in the mid-50s. Tonight the cool air will really set in with temperatures dropping into the low 30s. Some areas may briefly reach freezing, but otherwise it will be a bit frosty and just plain cold to start off your Tuesday. On Tuesday afternoon there will be more sunshine and temperatures maxing out around 60 degrees. Overnight temperatures will be a touch warmer in the 30s, but well above freezing on Wednesday morning. Wednesday afternoon coming in with a lot more sunshine.
806 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Hour 3 of Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Brian here with you. Jake producing. We got a busy hour for you this hour as well. First of all, thanks again to Condon for lighting the fire earlier. Thanks again to Dr. Mark Sherwood for talking about CDC guidelines. Thanks again to Dr. Catherine O'Neill from Our Lady of the Lake for a phenomenal segment. Cleared up a lot of questions about COVID testing and the at-home test specifically. Stephen Wagonsback from LABI, appreciate his segment as well. A lot of really good information that's on its way from their national conference and their LABI's annual meeting coming up less than a month from right now. Coming up this hour, we're going to speak with actor and comedian Dan Ahdoot in our next segment. And we've got AFR's, or After Further Reviews, Matt Moscona coming your way later this hour as well. Right now, though, as we do every single day, we start the third hour off with This Day in History.
Who's coming with me? We have to go back, kid. We have to go back. Say, kids, what time is it?
It's time for This Day in History.
Good morning and happy Monday to all those tuning in. We're starting things off in 1911. The first photo in the U.S. was taken from an airplane. It was in San Diego.
You know, 10 years before that, the oil boom unofficially started.
Really?
They discovered oil in Beaumont, Texas today in 1901. Yep.
Well, in 1912, the world's first flying boats made in flight was Glenn Curtis in New York.
The first what?
Flying boats made in flight.
Flying boat?
Yes.
A flying boat.
Apparently a flying boat.
All right, cool.
I got to look into that, honestly.
Yeah, that brings up all kinds of weirdness for Captain Steubing.
1932, Mickey Mouse and Silly Symphony comics were syndicated.
All right, then.
1945, no one is elected into the Baseball Hall of Fame.
That's weird.
I mean, it was 1945.
Oh, okay, yeah. Not Civil. World War II.
Yeah, that was a lot longer ago.
I was reading something else at the same time. Sorry.
1999, you'll like this one. The Sopranos.
Yeah.
Debuts on HBO.
This day in 99, really?
What was that, like 23 years ago?
Yes, it was.
There you go.
Wow.
Right, before I get to the birthdays?
For this day in history?
Yes.
The Catch.
The Catch.
The Catch. This day in 1982, NFC Championship game, Candlestick Park, San Francisco 49ers beat Dallas Cowboys 28-27. Dwight Clark makes his fingertip catch for a touchdown from Joe Montana. Ooh. That was this day in 1982.
Very nice. Any more before I get to birthdays?
Not that I've gotten to yet, but I'm sure my microphone will be on. So
sounds good. Birthdays. George Foreman turned 73. Maybe. Is he also associated with the grill?
Yes.
I assume so, but
yes.
Come on, I can't assume. But, happy birthday to him. And then there's also Buddha Baker. He turns 26.
Okay.
That's actually all the birthdays that I have.
No. Come on.
That's all that showed up on the website, okay?
Wow.
I'm not on the email list that you are. I need to get on that.
You do. There's
what am I missing out on here?
Oh, you're missing out on Pat Benatar is 69 years old.
What?
Yeah. Rod Stewart. Rod Stewart. 77 years old. If you want my body. No, that's an impression of Mike Myers. Who else do we have today? Got a ton of birthdays today, actually. Not a ton. Got a few more. Here we go. Jake Delhomme. Former Saints and Panthers quarterback, Jake Delhomme. Former UL Lafayette. Well, he was USL when he was there. Courtney Roby, former Saints returner. And Landon Collins from the Washington football team. You know where he was before the Washington football team?
Somewhere around here.
University of actually he was with the New York Giants. You know where he was before that? University of Alabama. You know where he was before that? Dutchtown High. Flying line of Dutchtown.
Traitor.
Yeah. Oh, his mom was pissed on signing day. Go look up that video on YouTube. I'm about 90% sure. Oh, was it Landon Collins or Eddie Lacy? Two different Dutchtown guys went to Alabama. I think it was Landon Collins' mom was not having it.
I'm going to watch it over the break.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the deaths. Only got one to talk about. There were many deaths in 2016.
She wanted LSU. She wanted him staying. She wanted her baby staying home. I understand that.
In-state. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone's an LSU fan.
I'm about 90% sure that was. Let me know on YouTube. If you're not watching us on YouTube, fire up the YouTube page, Mornings with Brian Haldane. Click on it. Let me know in the chat over there. I know it was a Dutchtown guy. Was it Eddie Lacy or Landon Collins whose mom just wasn't having it on signing day?
By the way, like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Yeah, always.
David Bowie died on this day in 2016.
What?
Yeah, there were a lot of deaths that year.
Yeah.
We'll be covering those, obviously, throughout the year on this day in history. Sure. That's all the deaths. Let's get to the holidays, too, to talk about. National Clean Your Desk Day. I can kind of tell just from the surrounding area here, a lot of this stuff got cleaned.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy about it.
Holler at me on National Build Your Desk Day. I just moved into my new office about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. I'm working off of a plastic folding table. Hey. The Foodie Friday table is in my office right now because I keep forgetting to bring a screwdriver and a hammer from home. So I've got my desk is in, I want to say it's 152 pieces was what the inventory on the little kit says.
Oh, that's going to be a nightmare.
So when is National Build Your Desk Day?
Hopefully soon,
right.
So you can feel a little festive. And also, it's National Fourth Graders Day. Shout out to those who have fourth graders, I guess.
I have a fourth grader.
Well, shout out to you, Brian.
I also coach a fourth grade basketball team.
Well, double shout out to you, Brian.
We went 2-1 on Saturday over at the YMCA.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, this third team we played, I have no idea who they are. Like sometimes you'll recognize the teams from other Catholic schools and whatnot. This third team we played. I mean, you want to talk about? They got some coaches doing it right in Baton Rouge.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they had third and fourth graders, and we're talking fundamentally sound from top to bottom. The team we played in the first game was from the ULAB school. I felt so bad. We're up by a good bit, and there were a lot of third graders on that team. Although they had some girls as tall as me.
Oh
but
wow.
We're up by a good bit, and this girl picks up her dribble, runs about 8 steps, and dribbles again. And I'm like, that's a travel on the other end. The other coach is like, come on, coach, you're killing us. I didn't mean to say that out loud.
Yeah.
I felt so bad. It's just a natural reaction. And I'm like,
I think we've all been there when
yeah,
it comes to youth sports.
I don't
it's
normally.
wait, Wait, they're just kids.
I know. I don't complain about refs on a regular basis. I don't know what compelled me to do that. I'm like, there's a travel on the other. Oh, stupid, Brian.
I've been there.
Knock
It's
it
okay.
off.
We've all been there. But that's this day in history.
Galen says it was Landon Collins' mom. Yes. Oh God.
I'm looking that up.
Yeah, he. This was
the
when
second we are off air. I'm looking.
This was when everybody was putting like it wasn't the hat. It weren't putting on the hat. Everyone was putting on the gloves.
Really?
And the inside of the glove was where you had the team logo. Like for LSU, you had to put the hands together to make the eye. You have the eye on one side and half the eye on the other. Yeah. Okay. And when you put the gloves together, like you're catching a football, that's where you can see the eye of the tiger come together. Well, he had the big A on both his gloves. Yeah.
That's disgusting.
Landon Collins.
Gross.
Yeah. All right, quick break. When we come back, there's a show on the Food Network that if you haven't seen it yet, kind of changes the game a little bit. It's called Raid the Fridge. Its host is Dan Ahdoot. I got the chance to sit down with him late last week. So, full disclosure, pre-recorded interview. But a lot of fun. This guy's a lot of fun. We're talking to Dan Ahdoot next. Yeah, like full-on eye roll. Like, I want to say she just got up and walked off. I could be wrong about that.
Oof. See, this is kind of fresh for me, but do you ever have like those memories that you don't know why or what on earth compelled you to remember them, but you still remember them?
Yeah.
One memory that I have was when I used to play, I was in like early middle school, I was playing football, and I went to my little brother's soccer game, and they're like 7, maybe 8. And so they don't know sports like that yet. And one of his teammates kicked the ball into his own goal.
Yeah.
And I just, like, clowned him for it as a kid. And, like, his dad was right behind me. And then I just said, congratulations. And looking back, like, it makes me cringe every time thinking about it. Because I was just a stupid kid. But, like, God, like, why? In that moment, like, why say something? You know, it's so
yeah,
dumb.
my freshman year at LSU, I went back home to St. Paul's for the homecoming game, and I remember I forget who we were playing. For the life of me, couldn't remember who we were playing. Probably North Shore. That's normally it's either North Shore or Salmon for homecoming, depending on whether or not we want to get our asses kicked at the time. But I remember this kid from North Shore as he's going to pick up he muffs a punt, and it's rolling towards it's down like around his own 1 yard line. And he goes to pick it up, and he kicks the ball, and the ball goes flying out of bounds. And then when he goes to, like, chase it down out of bounds, he trips and falls, and I'm just over there like, ha! You suck! My principal, Brother Ray...
Oh, no.
And he's not my principal anymore. Like, I'm gone, right? I'm not at St. Paul's anymore. He's just standing there with crossed arms. It gives you that disapproving, like, Christian brother look. Like,
yep. Like, really?
And I immediately go, I'm so sorry. And then I went up to him after the game. I'm like, I've been in LSU student section all year. He's like, don't bring that home. I was like, okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
He expected better of me, and I did not deliver. You want to dive right into it? Mm-hmm. Okay. Joined right now by actor and comedian Dan Ahdoot. You know him from Cobra Kai. You also get to know him from the new Food Network series, Raid the Fridge. Dan, welcome to Talk 107.3. How are you this morning?
Brian, thanks for having me. I appreciate you. I'm doing well. Thanks. Yeah, this is exciting to be on with Baton Rouge.
I tell you what, I got excited when I saw the concept for the show, Dan. This is we took the Food Network with their competition food competition shows and somehow managed to mix Storage Wars into it. This is a very cool concept, and I'm digging it. What brought Raid the Fridge to fruition?
Thanks, first of all. But yeah, it's basically I have this podcast called Green Eggs and Dan where I interview celebrities based on what's inside their fridge. And people started loving it because you get to see what your favorite celebrities, you know, have inside their fridge, which is like a very, you know, I want to know what's in Henry Winkler's fridge. And so the Food Network reached out and they were like, we want to do this show that's completely based on mystery fridges. And the concept is you've got 4 chefs. They have 4 mystery fridges. They have no idea what's inside them. And then they open them, and then the competition, the clock starts. And they've got like 25 minutes to make brunch or 25 minutes to make like a fine dining meal. And it's really intense and fun, but and it's also like a funny comedic version of a competition show. Like, we keep it fun, we keep it light, because I feel like a lot of these like competition shows now take themselves way too seriously.
Oh yeah.
Like the music is dramatic, the lighting is it's like a UFC fight, and it's like, everyone relax. Like, you're not curing cancer, you're curing salmon. So we wanted to make like a fun, light version of a comedy show, of a food show, but that does not mean that the chefs are not serious. Like, these chefs are like ridiculously talented chefs, award-winning chefs, and they go to battle because there's $10,000 at stake. So it's really fun. It's really fun because, again, they're using fridges that are actual recreated fridges of someone's fridge in America. So you get to see what a professional chef would be able to make out of the stuff in basically your fridge, which is very humbling, because I do not have nearly the amount of creativity that these chefs have.
Well, and that's the cool part about it, because you'll see that in the other competition shows where it does get, when you add the lights and the music and everything, as a viewer, it gets unbelievably stressful. And I'm like, this is not what I signed up for. But they'll throw something at them like, here's some pesto and a 3-pound gummy bear. Now go. There's a little bit more real world, hopefully, behind those fridge doors.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny, because that's what rubbed me about those shows too, because it's like, none of it is realistic. They're like, you have foie gras, sea urchin, and baking soda. You have 10 minutes to make dessert. I'm like, in what universe would this ever happen, right?
Right.
So our show is like, yeah, it's literally the stuff. There was a guy last night on last night's episode who made a breaded chicken breast, but he didn't have breadcrumbs. He had flaming hot Cheetos. So he pulverized them into a powder and used that as the breading on his chicken, and it was delicious. So
That's
crazy,
brilliant.
weird things like that. Yeah, I know. It was really awesome. I was like, you're a stoner mad scientist. It was pretty amazing.
Okay, so I'm thinking of this through the lens of a father of 3, but there's got to be a little bit of a stoner appeal to it as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've all been in that position where, we get home after the bar and
oh yeah,
it's too late to order in delivery, and we have no choice but to make do. And normally it's like I'll just make like cereal, and that's me raiding the fridge. But I'm telling you, if I had the talent of these chefs, it would be a lot more fun to stumble home at night, because there again, the stuff that I tasted on this show, it was like fine dining cuisine. Like, if I closed my eyes, I would have thought I was like at one of the best restaurants in LA. But it was out of like a normal fridge, just like mine. Like, it's almost like magic.
From a viewer standpoint, how much of, as we don't get to taste the food, but how much do we get to taste of Dan Ahdoot on this? Because what I know of you, I know from stand-up comedy. You're a remarkably gifted comedian. How much are you able to bring that to the table, if you'll pardon the pun, in this new show?
Well, thank you, but yeah, a lot. I mean, in fact, when the Food Network brought the show to me, they wanted it to be a serious show. They wanted it to be a serious competition show, and I was like, guys, you can find a different host if you want to do that, who's a lot better looking and a lot more serious. You don't need me for that. But if you want to make it a funny show, then let's go. So they gave me the freedom to be goofy and to be funny and to make fun of the chefs. And to have fun with the chefs. Like, it's not like I'm roasting them the whole episode. But, yeah, to their credit, this is like their first foray into comedy. So, yeah, absolutely, there will be laughs.
Long since overdue and needed on the Food Network as well. 6-episode series. It actually premiered late last month, Tuesday, December 28th. So we've got 6 episodes so far. How's the reception been?
People are really loving the show. Outside of my parents. My parents are going crazy. But, yeah, I'm getting a lot of love online, and a lot of people are disappointed by chefs who get kicked off, and they let me have it. They definitely let me have it. So there's definitely passion flying about the show. Now, people really like it. I think it's a welcome change from the, food, from all these, like, serious This is not the food battle royale. It's
Right.
definitely not that. This is a way more fun show. It's a way more funny show, and in fact, I think there's a couple episodes that are TVMA coming out because they let us go there. So it's very fun.
I like that teaser right there. But why do they let you have it though? You're the host, not the judge, right?
I mean, I am the host, but they also let me. The judges are great. There's two incredible world-renowned chefs, Jordan Andino and Jamaica Pessoa, and they're the ones they're the main crux of the judging. But I definitely taste the food. I mean, I'm there that's basically the whole reason I wanted a Food Network show was so that I get to eat amazing food. So. I put that in my contract. I was like, I better get a dish to taste as well.
Flaming Hot Cheetos Chicken was in the contract. He is stand-up comedian and host of the Food Network's Raid the Fridge. Dan, I got about 30 seconds left with you, and I got to ask you about this one. You're walking the path between comedy, Cobra Kai, and now the Food Network. What's it like balancing those three?
Look, it's always been a dream of mine to be at the intersection of food and comedy. So that is really, really cool that seems to actually be happening. Mm-hmm. And then this Cobra Kai thing. I mean, talk about a sleeper hit that took over the world. When we started doing it, it was out on YouTube. It wasn't even not that many people. It was me and my friends were watching it, and we were yelling at people to watch it. No one was really giving it a shot. And then it went on Netflix, and like I said, I'm getting DMs from people in the South China Sea who are like, "We love this show." I'm like, "You guys are watching it too?" It's wild how everyone in the world is watching it now.
Well, it's bringing a lot together because it's crossing generations. I mean, I'm a child of the '80s, and it's taking me right back as well. Dan Ahdoot, I know you got to get to your next interview hit, but I appreciate a couple minutes this morning.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. 825 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. I appreciate Dan giving up hooking us into that tour as he's going around talking about the new Food Network show. Hey, I love talking to stand-up comics. We'll get into that in just a second because I got another stand-up comic coming up later on in the week. But he mentioned that when Cobra Kai started, he said it was on YouTube, and it took me a minute to process. It was on. Remember when is YouTube Red still a thing? It was YouTube Red, right? It was the subscription end of YouTube. I don't even know if YouTube Red is still a thing. Did that survive?
I think it got turned into YouTube Premium.
YouTube Premium is now what it is?
Called. I don't even know at this point.
Yeah, get YouTube Premium is what they're calling it. I don't know. I've got YouTube TV and regular YouTube.
That should be enough.
Yeah. I'm not paying more because I already pay for Netflix. You pay for YouTube itself, so I'm not going to pay for premium.
It's basically cable at this point.
It's like the VIP room behind the VIP room behind the VIP room.
It's just a room with a table.
Right. You narrow it down until you're by yourself
with a bunch of LaCroix or something.
Yeah. Anyway, hey, coming up this weekend, or I should say Friday. Coming up Friday at 8:15, comedian Dusty Slay is going to join us. If you don't know who he is, how can I put this? You remember the Blue Collar Comedy Tour? And all redneck comedians kind of got lumped in the same room? If the Blue Collar Comedy Tour had an honors class, that is what I would call it. I call it Redneck Age of Enlightenment is what I would call. I tell you what, let's grab. This might not be his best clip ever, but this is pretty funny. Here's Dusty Slay to give you a taste of what's coming Friday.
I was at a casino hotel one time, and they had a sign in there had a list of everything you could steal and how much it cost, right? That way, if you want to steal it, they'll just charge it right to your account. I guess to keep you from stealing, right? But they had an ironing board on there for $20. I was like, that seems like a pretty good deal to me. You know what I mean? I don't buy a lot of ironing boards, so I don't know. But $20 seems cheap, right? Plus, who's bold enough to steal an ironing board from a hotel? A towel I get, you can put that in your bag, but an ironing board, that's bold, right? You're at checkout nah, I had this when I came in. Yeah, it does look a lot like yours, but I always carry an ironing board with me. Good thing, because there's not one in that room.
Dusty Slay coming up Friday. He's got a new special coming out that we'll visit with him. Oh, wait.
We're having a good time.
That's like his little catch line. We're having a good time. Looking forward to that. That's going to be a lot of fun. All right, we got so much more ground to cover. Let me take just a second, though, to step away and tell you about the folks over at Baton Rouge Physical Therapy. They've got 6 locations throughout the greater Baton Rouge area. You'll find them in Baton Rouge. You'll find them in Ascension. You will find them in Livingston Parish. And they've been around for more than 60 years. Look, if you've got a desk job and you look down at your computer keyboard all day and now there's this weird crick in your neck that you can't get rid of, you need physical therapy for that. If you were in an accident and you've just kind of like limped or had to like crack the ankle a good bit every time you get up, there's physical therapy for that. What if you're a new mom bending over to pick up your newborn all day long and you got lower back pain from it? There's physical therapy for that. Baton Rouge Physical Therapy, when you're there, like they will treat you like family. That almost sounded like Olive Garden. When you're here, you're family. They're going to take the time to truly understand your unique circumstances. They're going to take time to factor in your anxieties and frustrations and get to the root of your physical limitations. Check them out online at brptlake.com, brptlake.com, or give them a call, 917-9185. Get your complimentary screening right now and get on your way to being your best you physically. 917-9185 for Baton Rouge Physical Therapy. All right, we got to check news here at the bottom of the hour. After we check news, tonight's the night, y'all. College football is over after tonight. It's Alabama. It's Georgia. It's the College Football National Championship. The Natty is coming your way tonight. Matt Moscona, hosts After Further Review on 104.5 ESPN, going to join us to talk about it. We're also going to do a little post-mortem on the Saints season, the season that was basically playing 500 ball. You finished the season 9-8. You missed the playoffs by one game, or half a game, really, or an overtime, really. Oh, so frustrating. But honestly, if you're a Saints fan, you close out by beating the Falcons and you don't have to have any heartbreak next week. Is what it is, right? So you head to the offseason. Obviously, you have to address the quarterback situation. What else needs addressing? What else needs management? What else needs that magical balance that the Saints have been able to pull off for so many years, where the NFL is always a win now, worry about tomorrow scenario? Did that for years and years and years with Drew Brees at the helm. Did it this year with, 4 different quarterbacks under center at any given point. You started the season with Jameis Winston. He had his injury. You run out Taysom Hill. You run out Trevor Siemian. At one point, due to COVID, you had Ian Book out there. What do they do at quarterback, and what do they do to make sure everybody else keeps that salary cap magic just going? Plates are spinning, and we're talking about it next. Right now, though, let's get you to CBS News right here on Talk 107.3 FM. Give me 1 second, y'all. All right. So the Vikings.
Honestly, I'm glad the Vikings fired the coach. The play calling was terrible.
Condon ripped on Matt Stafford earlier this morning. I'm looking at my Facebook feed. I got a couple of friends calling Stafford a bum. When did Stafford give up a 17-point lead? How about rip the defense?
Yeah, don't they have Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey?
Oh, I believe they have Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey.
People are saying Aaron. Well, I mean, I'm not going to question Aaron Donald's skill. I know better than to do that, but
there are days where he doesn't show up, though.
But like, come on, man. Why didn't they just like quadruple cover Deebo Samuel? He was dicing him up.
Yeah. I don't know.
So stupid.
And Ayuk went for 109 as well.
Brandon Ayuk, I knew was going to be solid as a number 2 option, and they still have Kittle. They even made was it Eli Mitchell?
107, not 109. Excuse me. What?
Was Eli Mitchell the starting back this game? The 49ers have such a deceptively weak and strong team.
Yeah. Also, I got to get with Cade because kill the mics for a second. Bro.
I'm just annoyed that we came so close.
Yeah.
And didn't get it when I know we don't need a high draft pick to draft well. Because Sean Payton usually has a good idea of who to draft in
Except
general.
quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, Sean Payton's been in New Orleans since, 2006?
Well, I mean,
and
we
we've yet to draft a quarterback that could replace Drew Brees. I mean,
it's been one season, man.
Huh?
It's been one season.
No, it hasn't been. There's been half a decade where Drew Brees' last year could have been in a year. And at no point have we had somebody who can hold it down, learn from the man, and then move into the slot.
Well, maybe we're not going to find a quarterback through the draft. Maybe we pick somebody up.
Yeah. Do you have Moscona's number?
We're
calling him. He's still not here yet.
Okay.
Dropping Drew off at school. All right. Yeah, I'm going to knock out weather, and I'm going to do a ghost slam, even though I don't have one scheduled for today. 8:37. Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Got 2 segments to go here. We're going to talk a little bit about the national championship, which is coming up tonight, and a little bit about the Saints season, which ended yesterday. Saints should have been, they did what they needed to do yesterday to get themselves into playoffs. Although looking back, they didn't do what they needed to do all season long to get themselves into playoffs. They lost to the Falcons earlier in the year. Yesterday got the win. They also lost to the Giants earlier in the year. A couple of other losses where you look through the season, and it could have really been any one of them. All it would have taken was one, and yesterday wouldn't have mattered. You wouldn't have had to rely on San Francisco and Los Angeles going to overtime, which a lot of people ripping on Matt Stafford this morning. Heard Condon was over here this morning ripping on Matt Stafford because, an interception ended the ball game. And Stafford had 2 picks on the day. But Matt Stafford did not give up a 17-point lead. So we'll unpack the Saints season a little bit. How do you address the quarterback situation, especially when you know you're not going to be picking in the top 10? Unless you make some magic happen, make some deals happen, which they've always been aggressive in the draft. So, what is it? History favors the aggressors? Is that how the phrase goes? History favors the aggressors, but throughout history, the aggressors haven't had the salary cap balancing act that the Saints seem to make their way magically through every single year. So let's put a little postmortem on the Saints season and preview the national championship. Matt Moscona hosts After Further Review on 104.5 ESPN. Matt, good morning, sir. How are you?
Hey, Brain. I'm good. I just spilled my coffee all over my car.
Oh,
so I've been better.
No, sorry
like
about
everywhere.
that, man. Yeah.
In the cup holder, on the key fob, the new AirPods. Yeah, this is a mess.
Oh, gross. I'm so sorry to
Kinda
hear
like
that.
the Saints season.
A lot like the Saints season. I mean, would the key fob be the Giants and the AirPods would be the Falcons right there? Everybody's breaking down yesterday like yesterday was the end-all be-all. The Saints dropped out of the playoffs they had a chance to redeem it, but really they didn't take care of business early.
Well, I think I don't know that I totally agree. I mean, the NFL, look at how crazy yesterday was.
Yes.
Where you had the Steelers and Ravens go to overtime with a playoff spot on the line. The Colts, all they do is beat Jacksonville, and they lose to the Jaguars. Yeah. The Sunday Night Football game with the Raiders and the Chargers was just bonkers. You always have a chance. I mean, we watched the 9-7 Giants with Eli Manning as a wild card beat the 18-0 Patriots, greatest team we've ever seen. It's the beauty of the NFL. There is legitimate parity, which you don't have in college football. So if you get in the tournament, you always have a chance once you punch your ticket to the playoffs. So I'm not going to say they weren't out of it until yesterday, and I think it was tremendous resilience and probably a lot of people have said this, Brain, but I really think it was Sean Payton's best coaching job. I mean, this was a season where the Saints started 58 different players. That's an NFL record.
Mm-hmm.
And to finish above 500 and to just need the Rams to close at home against the Niners when they have a 17-point lead to make the playoffs, and you don't get that help is a bummer. But it's I think it was I think they, considering all the personnel issues they had, they exceeded a lot of expectations this year.
No doubt, and with the injuries they had, especially on the offensive line, and I as much as I hate that it happened to the Saints, I do appreciate when it's exposed how important the offensive line is. I mean, they don't garner headlines, but when you're missing Armstead and Ramczyk all year long, studs like Kamara can't really show out.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely showed when you had to highlight guys like Cesar Ruiz when he doesn't have the protection of having Eric McCoy and Ryan Ramczyk flanking him. They've invested a lot into that line. I mean, everyone across the board is a first-round draft pick. Well, I guess Armstead was a third-round pick, but everyone else, if you include Andrews Pete, is a first-round draft pick. I mean, they've invested a tremendous amount in that line, and it's really been a cornerstone of what they've done for so many years. But you tip your cap to Calvin Throckmorton, who was pressed into duty. So was James Hurst. Mm-hmm. Shows the value of depth and scouting and having good depth, which the Saints tried their best to do this year, man. It stinks, man. I would have loved to have seen them get in. They certainly did their part yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday was nice as far as it's always nice to beat the Falcons. So heading into the offseason, what do they need to do to address the issues that need addressing? I mean, obviously start with quarterback.
Yeah, well, that's the first is what are you going to do there? I mean, I think they legitimately have a play for Russell Wilson. I don't know if they can get that done. I think it'll take, if you just look at the deal last year that the Rams and the Lions did for Matt Stafford, that took 4 picks and a starting player in Jared Goff. So you'd have to start there. I mean, you're probably going to deal 2 1s, 2 3s, and a starting player if you're going to do a deal for Russell Wilson. And if you can't get that done, I think you saddle up with Jameis Winston again. So you sign into a longer-term deal. I don't know, but that's probably your guy. I don't think that there's a legitimate draft option for the Saints this year at the top of the draft. So, I think you make your play for Russ, and if you can't get it done, you're riding with Jameis again. Aside from that, it's really about rebuilding your depth because that's where they got crushed this year. You know, I mean, Michael Thomas will be back, but you need another receiver. You probably address that in the draft. You need interior defensive linemen. David Onyemata and Shai Tuttle played well, but you really don't have anyone beyond them. So those are the positions really where they're going to have to address. You got to make a decision on Marcus Williams. You know, he played this year under the franchise tag. Do you tag him again next year? Do you re-sign him? Do you let him walk? You know, those are the kind of Teron Armstead, your left tackle, is a free agent. Are you re-signing him, or is his career in New Orleans done? You know, those are the types of decisions they're going to have to make this offseason.
Okay, going back to Jameis real quick. Do we have enough of a resume of Jameis as a Saint to know whether or not that can be a long-term investment? Because, I mean, even before he went out, he wasn't putting up prolific numbers, and after he went out, we saw it could get worse, you know?
So no, I mean, he played 7 games.
Right.
But what you do have is a guy that you know physically has the ability. I mean, he was the first overall pick. I mean, he's got the physical ability. That's not even questioned. And you've also invested 2 years into him now in your system. 2 years of him learning your system, of mentoring him, of him knowing the players, the culture. Even though it hasn't been a lot of game time, you do have a lot invested in Jameis right now. And, I mean, just flip it on its head. And they gave Drew Brees back in 2006, you know, 5-year deal or 6-year deal. And he was coming off a brutal shoulder surgery, and he had really lost his job in San Diego.
Yeah.
So I think at some point you just have to commit. It's the most important position on the field. You got to decide what direction you're going to go and who you're going to hitch your wagon to. And if they can't get one of the big names in free agency, I think Jameis is a better option than guys like Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield, or Gardner Minshew, some of the other players that seem to commonly get brought up.
I don't know. Carr made himself a case last night for sure. You said Michael Thomas will be back. Will he?
Well, yeah, you have to look at his contract. And, you know, they just gave him a $100 million deal a couple of years ago. So if Michael Thomas is not back on this roster, his dead cap hit is like $22 million. I mean, he would cost over $20 million against your salary cap if he's not on the roster. So for a team that's already cash strapped, of course, like, you know, and is up against it with the cap, of course he's going to be back. And then look how awful you were at receiver. This is the thing that's the most mind-boggling. Saints fans get all up in their feelings because Michael Thomas, you know, ghosted the team this offseason. Bad decision, no doubt. But a year ago, he played the whole season on a bum leg. I mean, the guy wants to play. He just didn't take the advice from the doctors. Lesson learned for a young guy. But if you're the Saints, was there any position on the field where you were worse this year than wide receiver? And that's one of the best in the league. Let him get healthy, bring him back, let him ball out, and help Jameis go win. I mean, yes, Michael Thomas is going to be back next year. I don't think there's any doubt.
Okay, fair enough. Where do they go in the draft? Do you see them picking where they're at? I know it's super early to ask that question.
No, the Saints are always upwardly mobile in the draft. Fans always want to acquire assets and move and trade back. The Saints, that's not their MO. Their MO was always identify someone in the draft they like, be aggressive, go get them. So if throughout scouting there's a player they decide they love and they have an opportunity to go get them, they will. You know, if they stand pat where they are, they're either 17 or 18. I don't know off the top. But, you know, there's probably going to be a really good receiver, you know, there available at 17 or 18. Maybe one of the kids from Ohio State, maybe Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave, Traylon Burks from Arkansas would be an option as well. It's just very clear this team needs, whoever is playing quarterback, they need to give that person more weapons on the outside. That's likely where they go in the first round.
Got about 2.5 minutes left with Matt Moscona, host of After Further Review. Matt, we got to shift gears to talk college football. The Natty is tonight. The Georgia Bulldogs are a 2.5-point favorite. Tell me, please, why?
Because they're the better team. I mean, they are. They're a better team than Alabama. I mean, we forget that Georgia had the most dominant defensive season we've seen in this era, and they beat everybody by 33 points, I believe was their average margin of victory. I mean, Georgia was better this year. They're better than Bama. But there's also something to be said for just staring across the field and seeing your daddy. And I think that's Kirby looking at Nick, and he's up in his head. There's one spot where Georgia's vulnerable, and it's in its secondary. And Bama exploited that in the SEC championship game. I doubt very seriously that Georgia will allow them to do that again. But man, Brain, it's so hard to go against Nick Saban when he's an underdog. I mean, it's happened 3 times in the last decade, and I think the smallest margin of victory for Bama in one of those games is like 17 or 18 points. I'm trying to convince myself why Georgia's going to win this game, but I think in my heart of hearts, we all know Bama's going to get another one.
So that's the hard part about it. I mean, on paper, Georgia could be the better team, sure, but the last time they squared off, I mean, what was it 41-24, something like that? I mean, and then there's the side part of this about beating the same team twice in a year, 2011. So, like, how do you reconcile those two things and think that, I don't know.
So something's got to give there, right? Either Saban as an underdog is actually going to lose, or that trend of teams playing a team for a second time reverses itself. We saw it in 2011. Look, we saw it a couple of years ago with Auburn and Georgia. Auburn blew out Georgia in the regular season. They played again in the SEC championship game. Georgia won it, went on to the national championship game against Bama in 2017. So it's just very, very hard to beat a team twice. So something's got to give there. Some piece of history is going to flip tonight in this national championship game.
What's your gut telling you about it? What is your takeaway?
Oh, Brain, look, man, whenever I do something, like if someone asks me to give a pick, I always think, like, if I had to remove emotion, it's like, all right, if you had to go take your entire net worth, your life savings, everything you have, and go put it on one team, where are you going? Well, I mean, of course I'm going with Nick Saban. Of course you're going to bet on Alabama in this game. But I do think it's a very different game than we saw a month ago in the SEC championship game.
What else is coming up on AFR this afternoon? I'm sure a lot of Saints breakdown and a lot of Natty preview. What else is coming up?
Yeah, we'll talk hoops as well. Really big win for Will Wade and the gang Saturday against Tennessee, and they get ready to go on the road against Florida midweek. So it's a good time, man. It's a good time in sports over in these parts.
Absolutely it is. After further review, 3 to 6 on 104.5. Matt Moscona, I always appreciate the time, brother.
Thanks, Brian. You're fired.
I almost got my streak. He had been on 3 times without firing me, and streak is broken. National championship tonight. I'm with him. I don't see how you pick against Nick Saban in this game. I mean, give me Georgia on paper all day long. Fine. Give me the Crimson Tide in real life. It's weird sounding to say Georgia's the better team. Well, what did your eyes tell you during the SEC championship game? I don't know. Got one more break. We're going to check traffic one more time. We got to go back to COVID next. Yeah. Hell.
As of right now, the open NFL head coaching jobs, you have the Raiders, the Jags, the Bears, the Vikings, the Broncos, and the Dolphins.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what's not in there? The NFC South. That's not good for the Saints.
I didn't have my mic on. I didn't tell y'all, but as of right now, the open NFL head coaching jobs are the Raiders, the Jags, the Bears, the Vikings, the Broncos, and the Dolphins.
How many of those guys were in their first year of their contract, too? At least, well, Jaguars. No. Fangio was in what year? 3? Yeah.
I think 3 of the 6 were first years. It was the Raiders, because interim for Gruden. Jags, we all know about that.
Yeah.
Did the Bears have a new coach last season? Or this season?
Nagy?
No, that's not a new coach, so never mind. Was it just the Raiders and Jags?
I guess so. Scusi. Hey, by the way, just a heads up, YouTube. I got a blast right at the end of the show, so saying goodbye on the air is going to be the same as saying goodbye on YouTube. Monday mornings we have a staff meeting that I got to get to immediately at 9. .856 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. One segment to go here on Mornings with Brian Haldane. Going to bring it back around to COVID for this last segment. Actually, thanks again to Matt Moscona from AFR for hopping on board to talk a little bit about the Saints and a little bit about the Natty. We didn't get into the Alesso and Katy Perry song we're all waiting for tonight, right? Big Alesso fans out there? No? Okay, then I'll move on. We do have to go back to COVID a little bit because there is some news to break down. One of the things that Dr. Joseph Cantor said on Thursday, actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and play this audio. One of the things Dr. Joseph Cantor said on Thursday was about how Omicron has really taken over. Everything is Omicron.
It's by far the dominant strand, both in Louisiana, where it's at least 90%, if not more, of our new cases, our region, as the governor mentioned, where it's about 98% of new cases, and nationwide, where it's about 95% of new cases. So for someone who were to get COVID tomorrow, odds are extremely, extremely likely that is going to be Omicron. It is across all 50 states in the country. It's completely widespread.
Oh, but is it? Oh, but is it? This actually concerns me a little bit. One of the things we saw during Delta, and I can't remember if it was Dr. Cantor or somebody on a national level, it said on the show, that they got lax in sequencing when Delta was the dominant variant. I think it was Dr. Cantor said it's so widespread that we're not even testing for variants anymore. It's assumed that it's Delta. That's how widespread it is. Well, to me, that makes everything reactive instead of proactive. And I tell you that to tell you this. I was making fun of what the next variant was going to be at some point, calling it the Voltron variant, saying this is when all the previous variants combined to make one super variant. Went from Omicron to Voltron. Well, now a researcher in Cyprus has discovered a strain of the coronavirus that combines the Delta and the Omicron variants. What? Leonidas Kostrikis, professor of biological sciences at the University of Cyprus, called the strain Deltacron because of its Omicron-like genetic signatures within the Delta genomes. So far, Kostrikis and his team have found 25 cases of the new variant. This is according to a report they put out. It's still too early to tell whether there are more cases of the strain or what impacts it could have. It says, quote, "We will see in the future if this strain is more pathological or more contagious or if it will even prevail against the two dominant strains of Delta and Omicron." Kostrikis said in an interview with the Sigma TV on Friday, he believes Omicron will also overtake Deltacron once it's back at it. At a certain point, we're all going to glaze over, are we not? At a certain point, it's going to get ridiculous with the variants. Deltacron. All right, that's going to do it for us, y'all. Big show today, full show today. If you missed any of it at all, it's available on demand at talk1073.com. Got a big show coming your way tomorrow. We'll catch up with the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. I believe Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center is going to be on tomorrow morning to talk about their new partnership with Baton Rouge General, Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul, State Treasurer John Schroeder. Big show coming your way tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us. The Fox News Rundown's coming up next. Be followed by Brian Kilmeade, then Dave Ramsey, then Jay Ducote, all here on Talk 107.3 FM. Later.